morning, Canada. Welcome back to another episode of Question Pierre. Today's November 27th, 2024, and it is Cock Us Leader Day. Justin Trudeau and Pierre poilievre are scheduled to go toe-to-toe in the ring today with their words, because sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will always hurt Trudeau. So before we get into the stream, I want to encourage y'all to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It does really help grow the channel. This is the day every week. This is the day that we wait for. We like to see Trudeau go toe-to-toe with our boy Pierre, because Trudeau is about the world and the WEF. And Pierre, as we found out just recently, is very firm on Canada first. So this is going to be extremely exciting. Now, a couple of main talking points to look out for is the tariffs, the 25% tariffs. Now, a lot of professionals think that nothing is going to happen in that, because it's actually detrimental to not only Canada, but to America and Americans living in Canada, that Trump is just kind of bluffing. But the government of Canada is spinning their heads, insanely spinning their heads. Like, they are in full panic mode. And I don't blame them. I would be taking this threat extremely seriously. I think that everybody is trying to take this threat somewhat seriously, at least from the Conservatives, at least from Pierre. So that's going to be a main topic. Now, one thing I want everyone to look out for, this is my own opinion, okay, is that I think Jagmeet is turning slowly, little by little, on Justin Trudeau. And here's my theory on that. The past two question periods where Jagmeet has been there, I believe he was there yesterday. Well, for sure he was there yesterday. And I think it was on Monday that he was there, but Trudeau wasn't there on Monday. Both times, Jagmeet got up and said that he thinks it's a scam, that they're proposing this the GST tax cut and the $250 rebate for people within certain parameters, right? Remember, you have to be working. So you have to be on payroll or self-employed or contract. You have to have income. So EI does not count. Pension income does not count, right? Disability does not count. That's a lot of people that fit in those parameters. And if you make over than $150,000 a year, you don't qualify. So here's my theory. Jagmeet Singh has branded himself as the working man's man, right? He fights for unions. He's trying to appeal to the blue collar worker, because if you want rights, if you want more money, then vote for the NDP, because that's what he stands for, I suppose. But anyways, somehow he's managed to brainwash some people, but not everybody, thankfully. Now, Jagmeet Singh did come out and say on X recently that he does not support the $250 rebate and the 60-day tax cut. He wants it to be permanent. And then when you've heard him talk in Parliament, he's said the same thing. He's very, very critical of the tax cut only for 60 days. He wants it to be forever. Now, will there be an election right now, this week, before Christmas? I don't think so. As we've seen time go on, obviously it would be nice, but right now, as it stands, there's like 2 weeks, 3 weeks at best of them sitting in Parliament. I just don't see how they're going to squeeze it in. Now, of course, inflection does get called. They have to stay and do their jobs. They can't just be like, well, no, we're going to pass that on to when we come back, right? We're on break. No, they don't get to say that. But is there going to be an election before Christmas? I don't think so. Now, everyone has their eyes set on the new year. Now, does an election have to be called after Jagmeet Singh qualifies for his pension? No, it doesn't. Because as long as he's a sitting MP, when that day passes in February, he will trigger that amount of money for his pension, and he'll be good. So if an election falls on the day after, 2 days after, any day after, then he still gets that pension. So when you call an election, does it happen right away? No, it doesn't. It takes weeks. It could take a couple of months to organize it, right? There's a lot of people, a lot of volunteers, a lot of moving parts, right? It could take 30 days is a pretty good estimate as to how long it takes from when it's called to when it happens. So sometime in January, they resume. They go back to Parliament at the end of January. That's also when the tax break of no GST is coming to an end. You following? So I think a lot of analysts and professionals also think that Jagmeet Singh is going to wait until the GST tax break comes to an end, and then he's going to say, look, we've enjoyed lower taxes. I think we should make it permanent. Do it right now or I'm calling an election, right? And that's going to make him seem to the average person who's not watching these streams, who doesn't know about the timing of everything, right? The average person is going to say, oh, thank you, Jagmeet, for getting us out of this mess. That's how he thinks people are going to react, right? That's how he thinks people on the stream are going to react. Oh, my goodness. Right? Like Mrs. Doubtfire. Thank you, Jagmeet. Thank you. Oh, my goodness. You might get my vote. Not. No. But that's what he thinks, right? That's the game of politics. Keep in mind, Jagmeet Singh has advisors. He's got a team. He's got a branding team. He's got advisors. He's told what to do. He's told what to say, right? That's what happens at that level to certain people, right? So that's my belief. Let me know down in the comments if you guys think differently or think the same. Because if Jagmeet calls it January 27th, January 25th, January 30th, right? They resume in Parliament. They go to debate. And he says, you know what? That's it. I want a permanent tax break right now, Trudeau. Yes or no? And if Trudeau says, no, we're not doing that, then Jagmeet's going to say, okay, vote in no confidence. Let's go, Pierre. Come on, block. Let's vote. And then snap election, right? It's going to take 30 days. 30 days. And then it's going to happen later in February. Jagmeet will already have his pension. So to Jagmeet, Jagmeet's world, Jagmeet's fans, Jagmeet's voters, he's the savior, right? He's the underdog that is going to heal Canada by getting Trudeau out and somehow getting Jagmeet in. It's not going to happen, but that's how I think things are going to play out. So when question period starts off today and you see Jagmeet in the House and the NDP, pay very close attention to what they are saying and how they are saying it, because they're starting to brand themselves. They are starting to brand themselves to be more anti-liberal, more anti-Trudeau policies, more anti these taxes, because I think it's inevitable that when the tax exemption expires after the 60 days, the NDP is going to say, okay, we're calling it, right? That's my own opinion. Again, I'd love to know yours. Welcome back, everybody. Before we get into watching videos, I want to encourage y'all to smash the like button and subscribe. It helps grow the live stream. It helps grow the channel. Now let's take a look at some news clips here, and then when the House starts up, we'll be the first to watch. Here we go.
Opposition leader Pierre Canadian opposition leader Pierre Poilievre has called out Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, over his role in creating and tolerating anti-Semitism in Canada. The left-wing hate there is fueling riots in Montreal. I'll just quote from what Pierre wrote on X. He said, "You act surprised. We are reaping what you sowed. This is what happens when a Prime Minister spends 9 years pushing toxic woke identity politics, dividing and subdividing people by race, gender, vaccine status, religion, region, age, wealth, saying Canada is a post-national state with no core identity. And while you were dancing, Montreal was burning. We won't let you divide us anymore. Call an election and now we will fire you and reclaim our citizenship, our values, our lives, our freedom, and most of all, our country." Wow, Josh, that's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, that's a fiery statement, and it's a fiery statement that has to be made. I mean, frankly, I was looking at the so-called ratio on the underlying tweet that Justin Trudeau pointed out, that we saw kind of the quote there. I mean, Justin Trudeau was getting so-called ratioed. I mean, he was getting just blown up in the replies there. I mean, Trudeau was going to get demolished the next time that he actually bothers to hold an election there in Canada there. And it's because his policies have fundamentally failed. By the way, it's not just that he's allowing Jew haters in Montreal to firebomb synagogues. He's also now on record as saying that he looks forward to enforcing the International Criminal Court's arrest warrant against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, as if
Yes.
Netanyahu were to visit Ottawa I mean, is Trudeau literally going to send in the Royal Canadian Mounted Police to round up the Jews? I mean, are you kidding me here? I mean, is this sort of Nazi-esque rounding up the Jews the progressive mentality in the year 2024? I guess the answer apparently is yes. Again, he's going to get his clock cleaned in Canada the next time that they bother to host elections there. This leader of the opposition of the Tories is very, very, very well spoken. I hope he gets back into power the next time that Canada bothers to hold a national election, frankly.
I do like his form. He reminds me a lot of Ron DeSantis. I want to ask you about January 6th. There's been another hole that's been blown in Congress's January 6th investigation, despite the Capitol Police and Justice Department clearing Captain Michael Bird for shooting protester Ashley Babbitt dead. New information has come to light where Bird admits to not having sufficient grounds to have opened fire on her, and a new report confirms that Bird had prior disciplinary and training issues. What more can you tell us about that? And what is going to be the plight of these January 6 prisoners? Some refer to them as political prisoners, and really their cases highlight this two-tier justice system.
So the U.S. Supreme Court had an opinion earlier this year called the Fisher case, U.S. versus Fisher, where they held that a 2002 statute called Sarbanes-Oxley, specifically Section 1512, cannot be used to prosecute the J6ers. That was basically the holding of the case. Now, notably, Jack Smith, who we were just discussing a few minutes ago, Jack Smith decided not to let the Supreme Court ruling affect his indictment against Donald Trump. He actually left those charges in. But when it comes to a lot of the J6ers who are being prosecuted or who are waiting trial or who are currently sentenced under these same statutory grounds, the Biden DOJ has not actually bothered to change or to let out many of these people. And they're acting in many cases in flagrant disregard of the Supreme Court's clear guidance in this Fisher case. Many of these cases, perhaps most or possibly even all of them, honestly, are really just day one easy parting calls, I think, for Donald Trump and Pam Bondi, his soon-to-be Attorney General, come January 2025. Look, was January 6th a good day? No, it obviously was not. Has it been blown out of proportion by anyone remotely resembling anyone on the left? Yeah, of course it has. This notion that it was a Pearl Harbor or 9/11, get the heck out of here. I mean, this latest revelation about Bird and Ashley Babbitt there is really just the latest data indicating that there. Donald Trump should issue a pardon to basically anyone who's been prosecuted under that same statute I mentioned there, possibly all of them there. Get it done with, out of the way. The left will freak out. Let them melt down. Frankly, who cares?
Exactly. They're going to melt down anyway. Josh Hammer, thank you.
It is extremely sad that you have all these different media outlets that are talking just this much about Canada. Like, I get it. Look, I love it when I see India News and all these guys talking crap about Trudeau, but it's also extremely sad. Think about it. Canada doesn't do that for other countries. Canada doesn't focus on, wow, this crazy thing in Luxembourg is something that we have to really hyper focus on forever. It's just not a thing. Like, Canada focuses on Canada and America stuff because they're closely tied. But again, you know, we don't care about the Italian prime minister. We don't care about France. We don't care about UK. Other countries are always talking shit about Canada. It's not a good sign, folks. That's not a good sign. Now let's take a look at what, let's zoom into Canada here. What Alberta Premier Danielle Smith is talking about with the Canadian borders and how we need to address them.
Premier is today reacting to a massive trade threat coming from our largest trading partner. Incoming U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening to slap 25% import tariffs on Canadian and Mexican goods in his first day in office on January 20th. So far, it's just a threat with 2 months of runway for the feds to negotiate. But the threat alone was enough to sink the Canadian dollar to a 4-year low earlier today. The Prime Minister is set to meet virtually with Canada's premiers at about 5 o'clock Eastern tomorrow. Earlier, I spoke with Alberta's Premier Danielle Smith on the message she intends to bring to that call. Hi, Premier. Good to see you as always. Thank you for making the time.
You're welcome, Vashi. Nice to see you.
Just before I got on air to do this interview, I saw a report from Reuters saying that U.S. sources were telling them that energy exports will not be exempt from this tariff that Donald Trump is threatening. Is that your understanding as well?
Look, he's saying it's a 25% tariff across the board, and he wants a few things addressed. He's talked about illegal migrants coming across the border. He's talked about the issue of fentanyl. He's talked about China using Mexico predominantly, but also Canada as a backdoor to start hollowing out their manufacturing sector. And he's talked about how we're not pulling our weight on defense and meeting our 2% NATO target. So I take him at his word that those are the things that he needs us to address if we're going to have constructive conversations about trade. And I would expect it would be across the board.
How big of an impact, in your view, if this does come to fruition, would it have on Alberta's economy?
Enormous. I mean, when you look at our cross-border trade with the United States, it's 188 billion in total, but the lion's share of that is oil and gas products going to the United States, going to the Gulf Coast refineries, which are tooled for exactly our type of heavy oil. It'd be incredibly damaging. You can well imagine that there would be other jurisdictions that might be able to fill that breach. I mean, we're hopeful that we could make the argument to the Americans that in order to meet their target of bringing down energy prices, that they should exempt oil and gas. But I can tell you, I take this president at his word. If he doesn't think that we're making movement on the things he cares about, then I think that we'd be facing the cross-the-board tariff.
When the last time we spoke, you had, I believe, spoken to a couple of people who are in and around that administration, not necessarily, in the past week or whatever, but prior to. If you are, is it your plan, I guess I should ask first, to reach out to those individuals like Doug Burgum, like Lighthizer, Robert Lighthizer, like who are you reaching out to? And is it your intention to ask for an exemption for energy exports, or to lobby for the exemption of all Canadian exports to the U.S.?
Well, my first step is working with the other premiers to get Justin Trudeau to the table, which thankfully Doug Ford has done. We're going to be meeting with the Prime Minister, and we'll all be able to share our collective concerns about what we're hearing. But I would say that the best thing that we could do would be to start hiring border patrol so that we can guarantee that we aren't having a free flow of drugs and illegal migrants across the border. We have to make sure that we're addressing the areas of Chinese using us as a backdoor to get into the United States and close those loopholes. It sounds like we've done a better job than Mexico, so I think we can make that case. And we've got to see the Prime Minister chart a pathway to meeting our defense targets, because if we cannot solve those things, all of the lobbying in the world is going to come for naught. We've got to address the issues that have been identified as pressure points and alleviate them.
Do you think, though, that the way in which it's being characterized by Donald Trump is justified? And I ask because I understand the pushback on defense targets, but there is one that has been set of 2032. If you look in a relative sense at migration and issues at the border, it is a tiny fraction, like 1% of what's happening at the Mexican border. Surely you wouldn't, you wouldn't be insinuating that Donald Trump is justified in doing this, are you?
Well, just saying we're not as bad as the other guys is not going to fly in this case. What I understand is that we've seen a doubling of the number of interactions at the border from people coming across, up to 200,000 a year now. That's significant. And when you're talking about a drug crisis that is not only hitting us but also hitting the Americans, they want to stop that flow of drugs. When you see that increasingly the open border policies of Justin Trudeau is leading to people coming to Canada as a staging area to enter into the United States to such a point that it has caught their attention, we need to address those issues. We can't downplay them, and we can't play the
like this is a real thing. You've got people on TikTok. I think they're like East Indian people on TikTok that teach them how to communities, right? How to come to Canada under the LGBTQSLI plus, refugee status and all that crap, and then they go into America. They take the benefits here. They get their $76,000 a year, and then once that kind of runs out, then they hop the border and go to America. It's actual bananas. It's insane.
But game, and we can't pretend that the economic interests are going to override those very legitimate interests. We've got to make sure that we're addressing our own border issues so that can continue to be the longest unprotected border in the country. But I feel like that by identifying those issues, those are the ones that we've got to focus on.
Premier, look, I certainly understand the point about the problem getting worse at the border, and I've put that to Mr. LeBlanc on multiple occasions. But I don't think that the comparison to Mexico is but or superfluous, right? He is applying the same punitive treatment to both our countries when we just have a fraction. And when I say a fraction, I'm not like, being that's not in the abstract. It's I looked at the data, it's 1%, just over 1% of the migration that they're seeing at the southern border. If you're, in a position that you're in as Premier, as a representative of this country, harping on our country and our record and justifying Donald Trump's position, is that not detrimental to our overall effort to lobby him to exempt us?
Well, look, I mean, we have temporary work permits, 4.9 million of them coming up for expiry within the next 2 years. Does the Trudeau government even have a strategy at all for how they're going to be managing that? That's a lot of people. And if you look at it from the Americans' perspective, they would fully expect that people are going to be potentially coming across the border. That's why we have to demonstrate that we take our border control as seriously as the Americans do. I believe that if we try to change the subject without addressing the underlying irritants, we are not going to be successful, and we'll be facing 25% tariffs in 2 months' time. One of the things I would say is that he's given us 2 months' notice to clean things up and 2 months' notice to address these issues. And I that's what I'm going to argue at the table with the fellow premiers. Let's figure out a way that we can address those issues so we can get on to talking about our very fruitful and important trade relationship.
And I do take your point on the issues as they exist, but just to be clear, are you saying that his threat is justified?
Look, I've been saying that we have a fentanyl crisis in our province, and that's why we've been throwing a ton of resources, not only policing resources, setting up new dedicated enforcement teams to shut down drug houses, to go after fentanyl dealers, and to be able to get to apprehend those who are on warrants. We've been addressing the issue of of overdoses for the last number of years to try to curb that problem. We have been raising the issue of the number of newcomers that we are now overflowing into Canada to a point where it's overflowing our ability to be able to absorb them. I have been talking about this for many, many months prior to the new administration coming in. These are issues, and we're not going to pretend that they are not issues. They are issues that are impacting Canadians just as much as the U.S. president sees that they're impacting his citizens as well. We have a common interest in addressing it. We have a common interest in trying to get a handle on our border issues, and a common interest in trying to get a handle on the organized crime that is bringing fentanyl onto our streets. And if we can work together on a common interest, we'll probably be able to have a very fruitful relationship with the Americans, as we always have.
But with all due respect, Premier, I mean, there was a point in time in which you were asking for immigration numbers to increase to support the growth that you wanted to see in Alberta. And again, I'll put to you, do you think it's helpful to say that Donald Trump, to insinuate rather, that Donald Trump is justified? I get that you think there are problems, but does that justify punishing our entire economy, imposing a 25% tariff? I mean, can you not raise the specter of issues at the border without doing that?
Look, we are supportive of an immigration program that makes sense, that brings people in so that they have a job to go to, so that they can cultivate relationships, so that they can ultimately find a pathway to permanent citizenship. We shouldn't be a conduit for illegal immigration into the United States. No. That is not a tenable position to take. And the fact that that Justin Trudeau has allowed for some of these issues to get so out of control that it is now affecting our trade relationship, we've got to address the foundational issues. And we have seen this for some time. The premiers have been very concerned that without being able to match some of the concerns the Americans had, that this is exactly what would happen, is that we would end up facing tariffs as well. I think we have a window to be able to address it, to get back to the table, but we have to take seriously the issues that the Americans are raising, and we've got to address them.
Can't you say that is the case, that those issues need to be taken seriously, and also say Donald Trump is not justified in threatening a 25% tariff on all of our exports?
Well, look, I'm going to put Alberta's interests forward, and our interests obviously mean having a zero tariffs on the border. And I would say that the fact if we could lead with energy and have Justin Trudeau take the emissions cap off, take the carbon tax off, and truly be a partner in energy security, I think that is a very strong bargaining position to have that would allow us to have the broader conversation about the trade flows. But what I'm hearing the administration say is that they don't even want to talk about those issues until we address these underlying problems. I think we have to have a dual track, but I don't think that we can be naive enough to think that we can just argue, well, we're not as bad as Mexico, therefore give us an exemption. That's not going to fly. We have to be realistic about what we're going to take to the table.
Premier, I'll leave it on that note. I appreciate your time as always. Thanks for making the time.
You bet. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's an unfortunate situation all around. I think that this is a very, very bold move by Trump to implement these these tariffs, or at least threaten to implement these tariffs on Canada when it's going to affect Americans and the American economy. I mean, it is what it is, but Canada has some work to do, and we should be following that as like, hey, this is a warning. This is a warning. We're lucky that he's doesn't have the ability right now to do it, because he would. There wouldn't have been a 60-day grace period. Okay, folks, I've got some breaking news. I've got some breaking news. But we're gonna have to work together on this. This just came out 20 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago, while I was live streaming. It just came out. It's massive. It's huge. But we're gonna need to get the likes up. We got less than 500 likes. We got 3,500 people. If you want me to show the breaking news, let's get to 1,000 likes. I'll wait a minute. All right, but let's get to 1,000 likes. Let's see how badly you guys want to see this breaking news. Because I'll tell you this, it's as big, if not bigger, than Randy getting fired by Justin Trudeau. We get to 1,000 likes right now, and we're gonna take a look at it. I've already got it pulled up. But unless I see 1,000 likes, oh my God, I'm turning into Mike Tyson. Unless I just did it again. Come on. Unless I see, just fill in the blanks. Unless we get 1,000 likes, there you go, on the stream. We're at 800. We're almost there. Come on, guys. Come on. You want to know the breaking news or not? Randy got fired for pretending to be an Indigenous MP and have free money given to him by the government. Trudeau fired his ass. Bye-bye. Bye, Felicia. Adios. Right? And this is bigger than that. Come on. We're almost there. Let's go. We got a few more likes. Come on, folks. Imagine I said there's no breaking news and I just wanted 1,000 likes. I wouldn't do that to you. Randy got fired for pretending to be Indigenous. And now there's another Liberal MP. Who's accused of the same thing. Y'all ready for this? Buckle up. All right. Fleischer's references to Indigenous heritage appear to have been recently scrubbed from her online profiles, including those advertising her Liberal candidacy. Are you guys ready for this? Here you go. A federal Liberal candidate in BC who publicly identified as Indigenous for years says she's now plans to apply for Métis citizenship after local Métis society publicly questioned her heritage claims. She's doing the Randy. And she is screwed. In a statement provided by Liberal Party of Canada spokesperson Madison Fleischer, the party's candidate at the Cloverdale Langley City by-election said she is in the process of putting together an application for Métis citizenship that would be submitted to Métis Nation British Columbia. She lied about pretending to be Indigenous. I self-identify as Métis based on what I know about my great-grandmother's heritage. I self-identify. You aren't Métis. You aren't Indigenous. You self-identify. Are you kidding me, bro? What? You can do that? Hold on. That's a slippery slope. I'm not looking to get canceled, but there's a lot of things I could self-identify as right now. There's a lot of things. Let me know in the comments what I should self-identify as, because this is Canada and we're trying to be progressive. So let me know down in the comments what you think I should self-identify as. And if there's enough people that agree on one thing, I'll self-identify as that, because I would like to represent Canada's values and be ultra progressive. Why not, right? What do we got to lose? Are they gonna cancel me? We have a prime minister who self-identified as black. He did blackface however many times. Are you kidding me? Really? Come on. This is insane. I have always been vocal about not yet holding MNBC citizenship, and I removed Métis from my social media bios to ensure that there was no confusion in my identification. So you're claiming to be Métis, but you remove being Métis from all of your social medias? Over the years, Fletcher has repeatedly self-identified as social media as either Indigenous or Métis, but most references to Indigenous heritage have been recently scrubbed from her online profiles, including those advertising her Liberal candidacy. Look at this. Look at this recommended from editorial. Randy Boissonneau accused of fraud. Dude, we live in a progressive world, but you can't just identify as a certain thing to then get money from the government. Like, that's just not how that works. This is bananas. Absolutely bananas. On Tuesday evening, the Métis Society, which describes itself as a chartered Métis community that proudly serves the Métis people in the Langley and White Rock regions, published a statement calling into question Fletcher's Métis heritage. The chartered Métis community is calling into question this Liberal candidate self-identifying as Métis. After meeting with her on November 23rd to discuss her claims, we were disappointed that she could not prove any evidence to support her Métis heritage. In this meeting, Madison was able to substantiate her claims with any documentation or historical connections to Métis communities. Like, do they think that we're dumb? Do they think that you can just say whatever and just get a Indigenous pass and then get government money for grants? Like, what the heck is going on? Why are people trying to self-identify? Politicians, above all things, of all people, are trying to self-identify as Métis. It started off with Randy, and now it's moving into other Liberals. And this is a problem. This is a very big problem. And this is going to come up in question period. I don't know if it's going to come up today, but it's going to come up at some point. You can't just self-identify as Métis without being able to prove anything. Like that's craziness. As a federal MP or as a federal MP candidate, that's not a good look for the Liberals. I get the progressive touch to things, but this is not a good look. Wakaya Métis Society wishes to distance itself from Madison's claims of Métis identity. We ask that Madison take the necessary steps to properly research and verify her Indigenous heritage before making any further public assertions. Fletcher's statement did not specify when she decided to remove any mention of Métis or Indigenous heritage from her social media pages, but archived versions of some pages indicate it was after she was announced as the Liberal candidate on November 10th. So she saw the heat from Randy and was like, you know what? It's probably best that I start to remove this stuff because now I'm in the spotlight. A previous version of her X profile was archived by Google Reads. Liberal Party of Canada MP candidate of Cloverdale Langley, Indigenous advocate, Métis, small business owner, community leader. The word Métis has since disappeared from that description. This is all because Randy got booted from the Liberal Party. And she has been trying to pander to people saying, hey, look, I'm Indigenous. I self-identify. I don't have any proof, but hey, who cares about that these days? You can't do that. Like, I'm so glad that Randy got fired from the Liberal Party because it actually shows accountability for something. That's rare these days with politics, especially here in Canada. This person is never going to get sworn in as a federal MP. You have lied. It even says Métis and small business owners side by side. Listen, lady, we just went through this. We just went through this with Randy, and now you also want to go through this? That's just not how that works. I'm sorry, folks. I'm sorry, but people are not falling for that. They're just not. Anyways, that's the breaking news, folks. That's the breaking news. I hope it was worth it. We're now going to see what is going on in Parliament. They are starting to talk. There you go. One line, scandal after the next. How many more people is it going to take for this stuff to just, be put to an end? How many more people? How many more people pretending to be Indigenous, pretending to be black, all that stuff? Come on, folks. Come on. I get the Liberals are progressive, but at what point are they not deemed progressive and they're deemed a different word, right? Stupid? That doesn't do it justice. Here we go, folks. Buckle up. Let's get into question period. We're starting off with statements by members.
Founder Navneet Sharma, along with the board members Sita Mohan, Nisang, Indu, and Akshay. The event featured a survivor walk where 15 brave survivors showcased outfits designed by Dinesh K. Ramsey. This walk aimed to break the stigma associated with the cancer diagnosis by raising awareness, offering hope, and empowering those affected. We can all contribute to saving lives. The work of Cancer Warriors exemplifies how collective efforts can make a major impact. Let us all be inspired and support the vital cause. Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, Le Pavois is celebrating its 35th anniversary. This organization was founded in Limoilou. Its goal is the social, professional, and educational integration of people living with mental health challenges. It offers support to enhance their quality of life through 3 social economy enterprises. At the heart of this organization, many women have distinguished themselves over the years. First, founder Vesta W. Jobidon, the first woman to believe in the organization. Then Lisette Boivin, who was the first CEO from 1989 to 2015. Today, Le Pavois is headed by Francine Cyr, a dedicated woman who always cares about the well-being of members. Thanks to these remarkable women, our community can count on a reliable and recognized mental health resource. To all those who've worked with us over the past 35 years, thank you for your extraordinary work.
Hello? What just happened there?
The Honourable Member. Today, Le Pavois is headed by Francine Cyr.
Did they freeze this or something?
Le Pavois is headed by Francine Cyr, reliable and recognized mental health resource. To all those who've worked with us over the past, Bissonnette. Mr. Bissonnette
that was weird, eh? It skipped. It froze and then skipped backwards.
We're
good.
Including a remarkable 38-year period as CEO. Under his visionary leadership, the museum has grown not only in size, but also in reputation to become one of Quebec's most respected historical institutions. For over 40 years, Mr. Bissonnette has worked tirelessly to preserve and share our region's rich heritage. As Mr. Bissonnette prepares to enjoy a well-deserved retirement this December, I'd like to thank him for his significant contribution to the culture of Vaudreuil-Soulanges and of Quebec as a whole. Thank you, Daniel, for all you've done. On behalf of all those you've touched, we wish you a happy retirement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Perth Wellington.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to pay tribute to the Mayor of the Township of Perth South, Jim Aitchison, following his sudden passing last week. Jim was dedicated to his family and his community. He was a proud life member of the Downey Optimist Club, and in politics, he was first elected as a Downey Ward councillor and would go on to serve as Deputy Mayor, Mayor, and 3 terms as Warden of Perth County. Jim served as Warden during some of the most challenging times the county has faced. Under Jim's leadership, significant efforts were made to improve mental health.
Oh, welcome, Martin. I appreciate it.
And the communities they
Jordan English with 5 saying, could Pierre pull a confidence motion and ask for the tax to be gone forever, and then Jagmeet would have to either say yes or no?
You always knew
that could happen, yes. But keep in mind, Parliament is frozen. So until Pierre,
Tracy, and Greg
stops the freeze,
you are as proud of him as he was proud.
They can't do nothing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Alzari with the dollar. Thank you. No message.
Member for Surrey Newton.
Mr. Speaker, I'm honored.
Don't say it, Chad.
To Ottawa.
Jordan English with the 5 saying, wouldn't a border patrol help with the illegal guns coming up to Canada? I feel like it would help. It would, yeah, but we don't invest enough in our borders.
To defending religious minorities and others facing systemic discrimination. He has litigated.
Henry Mann with the 5 American, saying American here, MAGA, pro-Trump, and pro-Canada, and Pierre. This is the way.
Fundamental rights. As counsel for many political prisoners, he advocates for freedom of expression and dissent. Beyond the courtroom, he advocates for policy reform.
Aaron with the 2 saying, smash that thumbs up. I
I
appreciate that, Aaron.
In India,
Thank you.
guided by Sikh principle of Sarvatada Pala, the welfare of all.
Henry Man with the 2 saying, MAGA and
by
MCA
the
make
fight
Canada great
for
again.
Justice, dignity, and human rights. I urge all members to join me in thanking him for his service.
American here, Canada first, says Henry. Yeah, I mean, America is America first. Canada should be Canada first. And we can work together and thrive and mutually benefit off each other's resources and economies.
It's an issue for many families, and I would like to
That takes proper leadership to be able to do something like that.
making a difference in our community. Feed Scarborough, more than just simply a food bank. Feed Scarborough has embraced the UN Sustainable Development Goals as a guiding
Brandon
framework. This means
with the 5 saying, Maple MAGA, dun dun dun.
pathways towards
Maple MAGA,
economic
dun dun
stability,
dun.
educational growth, health, and environmental sustainability.
Jordan with the 2.
Food bank is complemented with
Don't do that to us.
and
On number
programs to
890.
reduce poverty, promote
Hey, we got there, and I hope it was worth it.
gender equality, and to
We got a
support
female Randy.
growth. Their healthy meal program provides over 2,000 nutritious.
Karen with 5. I noticed in yesterday's question period, Fergus had his hand signals to have someone else mute the mic.
Food hampers to families
Yeah.
in need, ensuring children have the
There was up gang
and
signs.
focus for an academic.
I mean, we're gonna do another petition.
The team and volunteers at Feed Scarborough
Maybe.
for
I
their
don't know.
commitment to addressing food insecurity in Scarborough.
see how it goes.
And encourage all who can to support their local food banks. Thank you.
The honourable member for Calgary Shepherd.
Government documents show about 1.1 million temporary resident visas will expire by the end of next year. Yet when asked at committee how his department will ensure these individuals leave once their visas expire, the immigration minister had no plan. After 9 years of mismanagement, the minister's only solution is to hope people leave voluntarily. At committee, he deflected, offering vague answers about monitoring and partner organizations. Canadians deserve better than a minister who cannot explain how his own department enforces immigration rules. We need a Canada First plan that will fix the immigration system they broke. Canada needs a serious, enforceable immigration plan that protects our system's integrity. The Prime Minister's YouTube videos and bogus claims on immigration only create more chaos, mismanagement, and uncertainty. The PM claimed in the same YouTube fantasy video that immigration would balance out. Speaker, immigration will balance itself? Who is he kidding? Only common sense conservatives will fix this broken liberal immigration system.
The honourable member for Markham Unionville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to start first to wish my granddaughter a happy 15th birthday. Canadians have faced much strife through challenging years in their everyday life. Our government hears them. We're here to bring cheer. Just last week, the Prime Minister made it clear we're stepping up big at this time of the year. Starting December the 14th, here's the decree. Many daily goods will be tax-free. Saving like these, where it matters most, gives family a break they can really toast. Yet across the aisle, there's a bitter scene. The Conservatives sulk in a Grinch-like routine. While we deliver joy, they just complain. Stealing holiday hopes is their usual refrain. But Canadians know the Conservative heart are too small to support families struggling, one and all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, that was pretty dumb.
The honourable member for...
Yeah, put some L's in the chat.
Speakers, it is National Addictions Awareness Week. Canadians commemorate the countless precious lives lost from the plague of drug use. 47,000 Canadians have died due to drug overdose since 2015, including more than 8,000 last year alone. Every person had dreams, hopes, and aspirations. None of them wanted to become addicted to drugs, and none of them wanted to die. They deserve better. Their families deserve better. All Canadians deserve better than a failing government who thinks the best way to fight overdose crisis is to flood the streets with more drugs. We need to fully reverse the liberalization of drugs, which is killing Canadians and threatening our borders. We need to ban precursor drugs, prosecute every trafficker, and we need to science-based prevention, treatment, and recovery. This madness must stop. A common-sense Conservative government will put an end to this terrible experiment, and we will have a Canada First plan to secure our borders and bring our loved ones home drug-free.
Here, here.
The honourable member for Kenora.
After 9 years, this NDP Liberal coalition is alive and well, and Canadians know that they are not worth the cost. Do you remember when the NDP leader made a big stunt about ripping up his deal with the Liberals? Right. He said then, Liberals are too weak, too selfish, and too beholden to corporate interests to fight for people. But now, Mr. Speaker, even when Liberal MPs are calling for a new Prime Minister, the NDP leader continues to support this government no matter the cost.
Unbelievable.
He supports the carbon tax, which he has voted to increase over 24 times. He supports inflationary deficits that are driving up the cost of living. He supports soft on-crime policies that have risen violent crime by 50% across the country. And he has said he would fight like hell for Canadian workers, but is nowhere to be seen when we are facing a threat of American tariffs. Mr. Speaker, it is time for a carbon tax election so that Canadians can vote for our Canada First plan to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Sydney.
Henry Mann with the 5 saying, I identify as a multi-millionaire, but my bills say otherwise.
December is one of my favorites about the difficult times that families experience during the holiday season. On December 14th, our government will help families by pausing the tax on essential items like groceries, toys, children's clothing, holiday goodies, and even Christmas trees. But Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition...
I don't know how to address this MP.
Mr. Grinch, and he doesn't want your...
Like what pronoun?
That is, unless it benefits his wealthy oil and gas donors.
Yeah.
And while conservatives on the naughty list still refuse to get security checks, on this side of the House, we're making sure Canadians don't have a blue Christmas. Across Canada, we're giving smart policy instead of cheap slogans, bringing joy to children, and helping restaurants thrive, all to make sure that it's the most wonderful time of the year. And Mr. Speaker, that's something to sing about.
Elon Musk said retard on X today. Can we bring gay back? Are we allowed to do that?
The honourable member for Victoria.
Because if we can, that's exactly what that was.
Every 6 days, another woman is killed by intimate partner violence. Today is one of the 16 days of activism.
Canadian Commander with the 5 saying oral questions. The
systems, the laws, and the attitudes.
You almost got me to say it before.
Against women, girls, and gender diverse individuals.
Oh, nice try, nice try.
In Canada, gender-based violence is an epidemic, one that disproportionately impacts Indigenous women, racialized women, migrant women, and members of the 2S LGBTQ+ community. On December 6th, I will join the City of Victoria's vigil to honor the 14 women killed in the École Polytechnique massacre, victims of misogynistic violence. But it's not enough to commemorate, it's not enough to pledge, we need concrete action. The government has failed to deliver sustainable funding for shelters, failed to provide affordable housing, failed to implement the calls to justice from the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. Enough is enough. Everyone deserves to live free from violence.
L'honorable député d'Abitibi.
The honourable member for Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Today, we celebrate the extraordinary achievement of one of Quebec's most important voices, Pierre, who's been inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. On November 11th, he received the Foster Hewitt Award, presented by the NHL Broadcasters Association, to honor a member of the radio and TV industry for his contribution to his profession and to hockey.
Canadian Commando, I tried.
Fourth rank of win this award, following in the footsteps of René Lacavalière, Richard Garneau, and Gilles Tremblay. Hockey fans have been treated to Pierre Houde's dulcet tones on RDS for 36 years. But Pierre Houde doesn't just do hockey, he's also our Formula One commentator and the voice of the Olympics. Mr. Houde, thank you for your passion, your respect for the French language, and your careful preparation. Thank you for guiding sports fans through so many battles. Wishing all Quebecers a Stanley Cup with you soon. We want to hear you say it over and over again very soon. He shoots, he scores!
The honourable member for Bay of Quinte.
Mr. Speaker, Canada trades nearly twice as much with the United States as it does all other countries combined. 40% of our economy is tied to that relationship.
Yeah.
This week, President-elect Trump threatened a 25% tariff on all goods. And after 9 years of this Liberal NDP government, we are unprepared for this crisis. The economy is shrinking. Food prices have risen 37% faster here than in the U.S. Canadians now carry the highest household debt in the G7. Canadian housing inflation is the worst it's ever been, and our military is in shambles. We need a Canada First plan. The Prime Minister must cancel his plan to hike carbon tax by 61 cents a litre. He needs to stop his reckless energy cap on what will cut Alberta and Saskatchewan production by 35%. He must reverse his billion-dollar cut to the military and invest in securing our borders against illegal fentanyl imports and exports. Canada needs leadership. Leadership with the brains and the backbone to stand up to this country, to stand up for Canada. As Laurier said, Canada first, Canada last, Canada always. Let's bring it home.
Order. The honourable member from Fleetwood, the honourable member for Fleetwood Port Kells.
Mr. Speaker, when someone tells you who they are, it's wise to believe them. When the leader of the opposition demonstrates an authoritarian personality, we better pay close attention. Dr. Jennifer Gunter, New York Times women's health columnist, warns that Conservatives have proposed and voted for forced birth legislation.
Yeah, we need Canada first, not WEF first, not World Economic Forum.
And I think he'd let them. We have a Conservative.
This shit's so annoying.
He'd use the notwithstanding clause to override our charter protections. We have a Conservative leader who disregards voices from corporate Canada, but he'll take their money. He says he'll bully cities to ignore voices from our neighbourhoods on property development. He spies on and muzzles his own MPs who Canadians thought they were their voice in Parliament. He, like his mentor Stephen Harper, is a party of one. He treats his own caucus with an iron fist. Would he do the same with the rest of the Canadians? Who knows? But it's best not to give him the chance.
Oral questions.
Oral questions. Questions. Honourable Leader of the Opposition to be the next Prime Minister of Canada, Pierre poilievre.
Leader of the Opposition. Canadians are facing the threat of tariffs by the United States. Now, what's the situation here after 9 years with this Prime Minister? Our economy is weak. Our armed forces, our military is weak. Our borders are weak. The Prime Minister himself is weak. When will we finally have an election so that Canadians can choose themselves a strong leader who will protect the economy and put Canada first? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, how ironic. We've given the Conservative Party a chance to put Canadians first, but what do? Well, they vote against initiatives that would help Canadians. They voted against dental care. They vote against the school food program. They voted against more spots in daycare. And they're going to vote against the tax break we're offering Canadians to help them over the next few months. Mr. Speaker, the Conservative Party leader rises every day to block help for Canadians. He's only thinking about his own interests, not what's best for Canadians. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. This Prime Minister is just too weak. He is too weak to protect our economy against Donald Trump's threats. For 3 weeks now, it's been 3 weeks since the president elected.
Look at that hair. Oh, that looks pretty slick.
Repeating his threats for weeks. And what's the Prime Minister's plan? A Zoom call. A Zoom call with provincial premiers who feel that this Prime Minister is too weak. Quebec will send the Quebec Provincial Police to protect its borders. Alberta says that this Prime Minister is not defending and standing up for our economy. When will we have an election so that we can get ourselves a strong leader who will protect our economy?
Yeah.
The Right Honourable Prime
Sooner than later, I bet.
Mr. Speaker, while the Conservative Party leader is playing petty partisan politics and putting on a show in this House, we are working every day to help Canadians. Members of Parliament represent their constituents here in this place. That's what we're doing on this side. But on the other side, everyone is just helping the Conservative leader rather than constituents. We are helping with school food, with daycare. They're not supporting that. They say that everything is broken, but they're the ones trying to break everything for Canadians. We're here to invest in Canadians. They're here to sow chaos and discord, to break things, to not help Canadians. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Face an unprecedented threat from President Trump's potential tariffs. And what is the state of things here in Canada? Our economy is weakened. Our borders are weakened. Mm-hmm. Our military is weakened. And most of all, our Prime Minister is weakened. Why can't we have a carbon tax election so Canadians can choose a leader with the brains and backbone to protect our economy and put Canada first?
Yeah, buddy. I'm down for that. Throw some W's in the chat.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, while the Leader of the Opposition focuses on himself and on me, we're staying focused on Canadians. We're investing in the kinds of things that are going to help people. We stood up for dental care. We stood up to deliver a school foods program. We're moving forward with more spaces at $10 a day childcare, all things that the Conservative Party voted against. But most recently, Mr. Speaker, they've announced they're going to be voting against the GST break for Canadians over the next couple of months, something that's going to help people at a time where they need that little extra help. But he doesn't care about helping Canadians. He just wants them to suffer more, so maybe he has a chance.
He's literally saying this while he wears a friendship bracelet.
Mr. Speaker, he's lost control of our borders. He's lost control of immigration. He's lost control of spending. That's right. And with that erratic performance, we now see that he's lost control of himself. No wonder foreign leaders believe they can walk all over him. They see him as a weak, incompetent leader who does not even have the support of his own party. Yes. Why won't he put the country first for a change, allow a carbon tax election so Canadians can have a Prime Minister who will protect this country?
There you go.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
You can tell he stood up all night against the mirror trying to practice that line. The reality is, Mr. Speaker, we've got our sleeves rolled up. We are fighting for Canadians every single day. We will stand up for good Canadian jobs. We will make sure we continue to have great relations with the United States as we build a stronger future on both sides of the border. We're going to continue to deliver the kinds of things that matter for Canadians. Dental care, free insulin, school food programs, all programs that Conservatives voted against, and now they're going to vote against a GST break for Canadians right across the country for the next few months. That's not being there for Canadians, that's being there for himself.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Just to prove how weak and out of control he's become, he just engaged in a mass hallucination, listing off a bunch of programs that actually don't even exist outside of his own head. But if he's not prepared to stand up for the country,
oh my God,
then why don't we have a real election about taxes? He can run on his tiny 2-month tax trick, and I'll run on my common sense plan to axe the tax and axe the sales tax on new homes. How about a carbon tax election now?
Man, Pierre is good today.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
We saw it perfectly clearly just now, the fact that he is trying to gaslight Canadians. He just...
No, he's not.
Dental care program, to pick one, doesn't even exist. We'll tell that to the 1 million plus Canadians who've gone to see the dentist, many for the first time in years because of the Canada Dental Care benefit. This is what he's standing against. He's trying to convince Canadians that everything's broken while he forces his MPs to vote against a GST break that's going to help Canadians over the coming months. That's not leadership. That's pandering to the lowest common denominator.
Man, Trudeau is actually nuts. His programs don't work.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has everyone unanimously against him. And his so-called Christmas present. Canadians don't want it. Business owners don't want it. Retirees don't want it. Students don't want it. Economists don't want it. Even those who are well off and kind-hearted, they don't want it. No one wants the Prime Minister's Christmas gift. When will the Prime Minister understand that one cannot buy votes? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Canadians are struggling. That's why we are offering a tax break to all Canadians for
Dude, the last time Trudeau stood up, he just called us the lowest common
the
denominator.
restaurant, at the grocery store. We know that Canadians are struggling these
He's a
days.
fucking moron.
We have one of the best financial situations of all G7 countries, and that means that we're able to help Canadians a little bit. The Bloc might not want that, but that's because the Bloc Québécois, Mr. Speaker, all they want is to pick fights and squabbles. They don't want the government to truly help Canadians and Quebecers, but despite them in their opposition, that's exactly what we're going to do.
Reminder to smash the like button and subscribe, guys.
Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, Canadians who are struggling are those who will not receive a rebate check. You know who is struggling, Mr. Speaker? The Liberals themselves. The Conservatives don't seem to support the proposal. The NDP neither. The Bloc Québécois neither. No one in this House seems to support the rebate check. If the Prime Minister is so sure of himself, why doesn't he make it a matter of confidence and have a confidence vote?
Look at that. The Conservatives are all standing up with the Bloc. Look at that. And look at the empty chairs on the Liberal side. Mary Ng's not there.
Order, please.
She's speaking to her Chinese overlords for China interference. Randy's not there. He's muting the microphone. He's about to mute the microphone.
Order, please.
Hey! I'll write another strong-worded letter.
Le très honorable Premier Ministre.
You son of a bitch.
Prime Minister. It's clear, Mr. Speaker, that opposition parties want a political excuse to vote against something that Canadians do want. Canadians need a tax break. That's exactly what we are giving them. It will be up to opposition parties to decide whether they want to be there for their constituents, to be there for Canadians who are struggling, or if they prefer playing petty partisan politics and picking fights. The Bloc and the Conservatives want to say that Canada's broken, but we on this side are here for Canadians to support them and to help them when times are tough.
L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie.
Monsieur le Président, trouvez l'erreur.
Mr.
Bro, where the hell is
Speaker,
Jagmeet?
what's wrong with this picture? On the one hand, we have Danielle, who is retired for medical reasons. Her disability income is $45,000 a year. On the other hand, we have her spouse, who earns $125,000 a year. Who's going to receive a $250 check in the spring? Yes, that's right. According to the Liberals, her spouse should receive a check, but not Danielle herself. She's being punished because she's too sick to work. That makes no sense whatsoever. My question to the Prime Minister is simple. What does he have to say to Danielle and to all retirees?
They don't get the check.
J'aimerais juste signaler à tous les députés.
I would like to say to all members to please be very careful in
Shut
their
the hell up.
words.
I'll write another petition.
Bon côté de notre
They should pick words that are accepted. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Dans cette chambre depuis assez longtemps.
I've been in this house for long enough, Mr. Speaker, long enough to remember a time when the NDP stood up for Canada's workers. In fact, they were the party of workers in Canada. Now, workers who have been shouldering a heavy burden throughout the pandemic, throughout the inflation crisis, they have done so much and we have supported them. We're also supporting seniors and young people. But with this measure, with this rebate, we want to acknowledge the hard work of workers who need our support. The NDP is against it. The party that truly stands for workers is not the NDP, it's the government.
Member for Cowichan, Malahat, Langford.
Like most Canadians, seniors are doing what they can to get by, but things are tough. The Liberals have let people down, watching as seniors struggle to even buy their groceries. The Liberals' latest disappointment, cutting seniors out of their $250 rebate.
Here it comes, dude. The NDP's ready for an election.
The same grocery CEOs who are jacking up costs. Will the Prime Minister listen and give seniors a much-needed break? I mean, come on, even his own MPs are asking for him to fix this.
I fucking told you. Everybody's turned on Trudeau. Pierre's on his laptop.
Minister.
He's typing in this live chat.
The party of Tommy Douglas, of Ed Broadbent, of Jack Layton was actually a party that stood up for workers. But now that we have a government that is recognizing that workers carried us through this pandemic, the Canadian workers saw us through one of the worst global inflation crises the world has ever seen, and that we want to give them support because we know things are tough for workers, not to take away anything from the help we're giving seniors or youth. We want to be there for workers, and the NDP is suddenly against benefits for workers. It makes no sense, Mr. Speaker.
Here we go, Pierre.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
No sense, Mr. Speaker. I couldn't agree more. Here we have the NDP claiming to have torn up their deal, their carbon tax coalition with the Prime Minister. But then they taped it back together when he promised a 2-month tax trick. Then, after taking credit for it, the NDP says they didn't know what was in it. Right. And now they're opposed to it. Mr. Speaker, these two leaders can't even figure out how to give away $6 billion properly. Isn't it time for a carbon tax election so that we can elect a common sense government?
Yeah. Look at that, man. The Bloc's ready. Conservatives are ready. All you need is 14 Liberal MPs.
Speaker, MPs are supposed to represent their constituents here in Ottawa, but the Conservative Party MPs are choosing to represent their leader back in their constituency. I know Canadians across the country, including in Conservative ridings, are looking forward to saying no taxes on meals in restaurants or on all groceries or on kids' clothes for the next few months. But the leader is making them vote against these measures to help Canadians. If Conservative MPs want to stand up for Canadians, they need to stand up against their leader.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think Canadians
Mr. Canadian.
to stand up and speak for themselves. The Prime Minister wants to lecture us about democracy. Then why don't we have a referendum? A referendum election where the choice will be the following. A tiny 2-month tax trick with the NDP Liberals, or a permanent axing of the carbon tax and axing the sales tax on new homes. Why not let Canadians decide now?
Let's go, man! Put some W's in the chat, folks.
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, for the Leader of the Opposition to end the price on pollution would mean to end the Canada carbon rebate that comes to people's homes 4 times a year and delivers more money to middle-class Canadians than the price on pollution actually costs, while at the same time decreasing emissions. And in regards to housing, his failed housing proposal was to cut billions of dollars from cities across this country that they're investing in building housing. That would drive up property taxes for homeowners. That would make it harder to build homes. He has a proposal that is electorally interesting for him, but won't do anything for Canadians.
The truckers carried us during the blip, and then look how Trudeau treated the truckers.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Electorally interesting. That's his condescending way of saying Canadians actually like my plan. That's right. Because Canadians have figured out that after 9 years of this weak Prime Minister, spending $80 billion on housing, with the result being the doubling of housing costs, that spending billions more won't make any difference. We're going to slash that bureaucracy and use the savings to axe the sales tax on Canadian homes. Why won't he let Canadians decide?
Yeah. Carbon tax is just a redistribution of wealth to the lowest common denominator.
All in conservative ridings across the country are speaking up that the investments we're making in the housing accelerator is helping them cut red tape, increase densification, create more homes more quickly. And the plan the Conservative Party has put forward to remove those billions of dollars from municipalities just as they're tackling the housing crisis would harm Canadians. But the Leader of the Opposition doesn't care about harming Canadians. What he wants to do is gain power, and he'll do anything he can to do that. While we stay focused on Canadians, he's focused on himself.
Nah, man, Canada first.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has run a groundbreaking experiment. He's put billions of dollars in a sack and offered it to politicians, and the finding? They're willing to accept the money. A groundbreaking sociological study. He wants to give more money to local politicians who block home building. We want to use the same money to cut taxes for the people who buy homes and build homes. Why won't we allow Canadians to decide whether they want the money to go to the politicians or to the people in a carbon tax election?
Trudeau's housing plan is to slow down immigration. That's it.
Or at least the Conservative leader is true to form in that he would rather pick fights with everyone than actually deliver for Canadians. We know, as we saw during the pandemic, as we've seen through the inflation challenges, working together with the provinces, working together with municipalities to get things built for Canadians is what they want. What does the Leader of the Opposition do? He insults people, but then he also votes against direct money in Canadians' pockets, whether it's with investments in childcare or dental care, whether it's investments in taking the tax off of groceries for the next few months. These are things that he's standing against out of political self-interest.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
It just shows how out of control he's become. He can't stay on a subject. He brings up housing, so I agree. I just threw away my script and said, let's debate housing. So he now changes the subject back to his 2-month tax trick. Well, here's the trick, everyone. After the tax break runs out in February, they're going to
increase the
carbon tax
yeah.
on heat, housing, gas, and groceries, all as a part of a plan to quadruple the carbon tax to 61 cents a litre. So will he get himself under control, show some strength for a change, and call a carbon tax election?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, every day I get up in this house, I talk about one thing and one thing only: Canadians, and how Canadians, how they're where to grow, how we're there to grow a stronger economy for Canadians with direct investments that will support them with free insulin, with dental care, with more spaces in childcare, all things that the Leader of the Opposition is voting against. Yes, we're investing in the most ambitious housing solution that this country has ever seen. Things that he didn't do when he was Stephen Harper's failed housing minister. We're going to continue to stand up and fight for Canadians while the Leader of Opposition gets up, pulls off his little performances, and fights against me.
Yeah, he's going to fight against you. You're a freaking idiot.
Said he was going to talk about one thing, and then he rambled on about 10 or 15 things, all things he hallucinates that one day he might do if only he were given another 9 years in office, Mr. Speaker. Instead of talking about his real record, which is that he doubled housing costs, he doubled food bank use, he doubled the debt, and now he wants to quadruple the carbon tax to 61 cents a litre. Mr. Speaker, we need a Prime Minister who's in control of himself, so why doesn't he call a carbon tax election so we can get one?
Oh my goodness, man. Pierre is making Trudeau look like an absolute clown.
I'll say it again. The Canada carbon rebate puts more money in the pockets of 8 out of 10 Canadians. But the Leader opposite wants to talk about one thing. He talked about food banks. Let's talk about the school food program. This is a program that sends federal dollars directly into school boards, directly to support delivering good food programs for kids. No bureaucracy, just investments in school food programs. The Conservative Leader voted against it, and worse, he forced his own MPs to vote against it, to stand up against their constituents and side with him instead of in Canadians who need help.
Put an L in the chat for Trudeau. That was lame.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, imagine what we could do with $6 billion. Everyone in this House has already voted on a measure for more money for retirees aged 65 to 74. Mm-hmm. We could put $3 billion in housing, for instance, which would help families. The problem, though, Mr. Speaker, is that the Prime Minister doesn't seem to realize that most of this House no longer has confidence in him. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, from coast to coast to coast, Canadians are struggling. That's why we are helping them directly with a 2-month tax break to help them get through difficult times. We are also offering direct support to workers, those who have been working for a long time.
So it's not difficult before the 2 months, and it's not difficult after the 2 months. That's what he's saying.
We've also invested significantly in young people. Workers need support too. This rebate will deliver direct support to workers, support that they need. But once again, the Bloc Québécois is just looking for a fight. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. It's clear that retirees and young people must be pretty confused hearing that they've been helped so significantly. Mr. Speaker, no one wants these Christmas goodies, these presents. The Liberal Party of Canada's members of Parliament and all other members here voted in favour of equality for retirees. I think people are ready to pay a certain level of taxes if their money is going to be handled and spent properly. Is the Prime Minister ready to move a confidence vote on his new measures? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Bloc Québécois has Bloc Québécois opposition days during which they can set the agenda in the House. Meanwhile, we will continue to work to support seniors, which is what we've been doing for a long time. We will continue to take good care of seniors. We will continue to invest in them. We also want to invest in workers to acknowledge the hard work that they do, to acknowledge the struggles they've been through with global inflation, with the pandemic. We're here to support them. If the Bloc Québécois wishes to vote against workers, then they can feel free to do so, and then they can explain that to workers in Quebec and elsewhere. We're here to support workers. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. We need a plan. We need a plan to protect our economy from President Trump's threats. Americans and Canadian provincial premiers have raised issues of chaos at our borders and within our immigration system. There are 4.9 million visas and permits which will expire in the next 13 months, give or take.
Deport.
If people leave Canada to go to the States illegally, there will be consequences for our economy. What is the plan to guarantee that those who should leave Canada will indeed do so? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, every year in our country, thousands of residence permits, tourist visas, and other visas expire and people return to their countries. We have mechanisms and processes in our immigration system.
No, we don't.
And at our borders.
Liberals have literally said we're going to
leave when they
just trust them to go home.
And to ensure that there are consequences when they do not do so. We will continue to keep those systems working. We have also made adjustments in immigration to ensure that immigration meets the challenges of today. We have taken action to strengthen our borders.
It's a lie.
We are here for Canadians. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. But his minister said that it would be impossible to even track whether people do, in fact, leave Canada.
That's exactly right.
The Immigration Minister's Department, the Department of Immigration, just published a statement saying that's according to sources, the number of people who should have left Canada already but are still here is between 20,000 and 500,000. But that there could be even more. There could be more than 500,000 people here who should have left. Mr. Speaker, where's the plan? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we just put forward an immigration plan to bring down immigration levels over the next few years. This will allow home building and the economy to catch up. To meet people's needs. For example, we had more immigrants to address labor shortages. Now, we will, of course, keep our borders strong and protect the integrity of our borders. This is what Canadians expect. This is something we deliver and will continue to deliver. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Our borders, if we're going to protect our economy from President Trump's tariff threats, the Americans and the premiers are all concerned the Prime Minister is too weak to do that. And the data from his own immigration department confirm that fact. According to documents produced by his ministry, there are between 20,000 and 500,000 people in Canada that are not supposed to be here. And there are another 3 million that have to leave within the next year. What is the plan to ensure that people who should leave do leave?
There is no plan.
The Right Honourable Prime
There is none.
Speaker, every year there are visitor visas and work permits and student visas that expire, and every year the vast majority of those people return home to their countries. We have procedures and processes in place to make sure that that does happen. We have consequences if they don't. We will continue to strengthen those. But continuing to talk down our country, continue to talk down our systems is something that the Leader of the Opposition is doing because he's more focused on trying to get elected than he is on actually solving the problems Canadians are facing. That's why we continue to step up and deliver on the needs of Canadians.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Another weak answer from a weak leader, Mr. Speaker. The reality is he says that people just voluntarily leave when their permits and visas are up. But his minister admitted this week that that is impossible to prove because they don't keep track. And the closest thing they could get to an answer was their department saying estimates from academic sources range from between 20,000 and 500,000 persons, although there may be more. We're talking about people who should not be in our country. So once again, what is the plan?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, once again, we laid out an immigration plan just a few weeks ago. It talks about how we're going to make sure that our immigration numbers allow for our economy to catch up, for our home building to catch up. We have a strong and robust immigration system that has delivered for Canadians over decades now. And the fact that the Leader of the Opposition continually throws up his hands to say that Canada is broken is talking down not just our institutions, but Canadians themselves. Canadians are optimistic and ambitious about the future. That's why we continue to invest in them. His answer is cuts to services, cuts to benefits, cuts to Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
Speaker, the Prime Minister promised that Canadians would see real change to our electoral system. It's been 9 years, and in true Liberal fashion, he broke this promise and let Canadians down. Clearly, this was an election.
That says more about you than him for still trusting him after all this time.
Partisan games and a lack of representation in Canada's Parliament. And the Conservatives, well, they sure don't want to make it better because they only care about the profits of their rich corporate friends. Will the Prime Minister tell Canadians why he dropped the ball on electoral reform?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I very much care about electoral reform. I've been very clear that I would bring in a ranked ballot tomorrow if we had that option. But really, to see the NDP turning its back on workers right now, asking a question about electoral reform when Canadians are worried about whether or not the opposition parties are going to support the tax break that they need, or the investments in workers that they deserve. Right now, we need a party and a parliament that is focused on helping and supporting Canadians as they get us all through this difficult time with their hard work, with their ambition. And right now, talking about politics is the last thing Canadians want to see from this.
What? He's turning on them.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton.
Mr. Speaker, what the Prime Minister isn't saying is the fact that seniors and persons with disabilities are workers. No,
He's fucking turning on the only people that are keeping him in power.
put a roof over their head or to afford food. But a recent report from the Edmonton suggests that the minimum wage just isn't enough to survive. People are having to make tough choices. They cannot afford their groceries, they cannot afford their medication, and they cannot afford their rent. But the Liberals are holding up relief by excluding seniors and persons with disabilities in the $250 rebate. Worse yet, the Conservatives would cut. Will the Liberals stop letting Canadians down during this difficult time?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as of next year, because of this government, Canadians with disabilities will be receiving $200 every single month. That is making a real difference in the lives of Canadians living with disabilities, and we know there is more to do, and we will be doing more. In regards to workers, it's astonishing to see the new Democratic Party of Canada turn its back on workers and say that workers don't deserve a little support. Workers don't deserve to be recognized for the efforts that they did to get us through the pandemic, to get us through the global inflation crisis. These are things that we're standing up to see and recognize workers, and the NDP is blocking it.
The Honourable Member for Kingston and the Islands.
Mr. Speaker, last week our government announced measures that will provide financial supports for Canadians over the holidays. These measures should be supported by all MPs. However, we know the Leader of the Opposition has muzzled his members. According to one Conservative MP, we recently learned that, quote, everybody is being watched. What we say, what we do, who we talk to, end quote. The Leader of the Conservative Party has gone so far as to stop his MPs from asking the government for supports. Can the Prime Minister explain why the Leader of the Opposition should unmuzzle his MPs and allow them to support Canadians instead of forcing them to repeat his embarrassingly bad slogans?
I don't know what's leaving first, man. This guy's job or his hairline.
That question is not regarding the administration of government.
Yeah, you dumbass. The House Speaker rarely puts Liberals in line.
See that the Prime Minister...
And he's extremely disappointed with the Liberals right now.
That was not regarding the administration of government.
That's a rare W. Rare W for the House Speaker.
Stop, please. Order, please. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it looks like the member for Kingston is not getting into cabinet after all.
Did you see Michelle Ferrari in the back?
Happiness wherever they go. Others bring happiness whenever they go. Mr. Speaker, this is a 2-month tax trick that will print cash, add to inflation, and make Canadians worse off. And if the Prime Minister disagrees, why won't he stop being so weak? Why won't he have the courage to call a carbon tax election and allow Canadians to vote to axe the tax?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Man, that's funny.
Canadians elect members of Parliament to be their voice in Ottawa, not Ottawa's voice or their leader's voice in their communities. But the Conservative leader shamefully puts his own interests ahead of Canadians. We announced a tax break for all Canadians, a $250 rebate to put more money in the pockets of working Canadians, and Conservative MPs know their constituents want this, need this, and support this, but the Conservative leader is muzzling them and forcing them to vote against direct support for Canadians. Shame on him.
Oh my goodness. Let's go, Pierre. Clap back.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister's radical liberalization of hard drugs has been lethal for Canadians, 47,000 of whom have died of overdoses since this Prime Minister took office, more than died in the Second World War fighting for Canada. Overdose deaths are up 200%, and now our American friends say they may hit us with tariffs because of the Prime Minister's liberal policies on fentanyl. How many lives and jobs is this Prime Minister willing to sacrifice for his radical liberal agenda?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, we are using all the tools at our disposal to save lives and keep communities safe.
That are disposable.
Meanwhile, Conservatives are choosing to use struggling people as political props to spread fear and misinformation. From the very beginning, we have been there to work on an evidence-based, compassionate public policy, public health approach. We have been there and we will always be there to work with provinces and territories to meet this time of crisis. While the Conservative leader plays politics, we're going to be there to support Canadians grounded in science and evidence.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, the science and evidence are now proven. After 9 years of radical liberalization of drugs, overdose deaths are up by 200%. And the worst overdose numbers come from British Columbia, where the policies have been most radically and enthusiastically implemented. But the NDP Liberals claimed that they were backtracking on decriminalization because it became so unpopular. Just this week, NDP Liberals voted for a committee report that called for full legalization of hard drugs. Will the Prime Minister admit that is his real agenda?
Yeah. Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, having an evidence-based and a science-based approach, compassionate public policy approach grounded in health care to the opioid epidemic is what we need to do, not just to save lives, but to create safer communities. While the Leader of the Opposition plays politics and uses suffering people as props to propagate a brokenist view of this country, we're going to continue to roll up our sleeves, work hard with provinces and territories to respond to this tragedy, to make sure we're putting Canadians first in everything we do.
Can we return the $250 in exchange for not having him?
Prime Minister's radical drug agenda is not the only thing that is broken. Our economy is broken as well. We now have 2 million people forced to go to food banks every single month. A 38% increase in chronic homelessness, 1,400 homeless encampments, and just today, Equifax reported that consumer debt is $2.5 trillion. We have the worst household debt of all G7 countries. When will he call a carbon tax election so that we can fix everything he broke?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the answers the Conservative leader is putting forward to the challenges of Canadians facing homelessness or the challenges of food banks is to cut the programs that are actually investing in direct supports for people. Whether it's money we're investing in municipalities and provinces to reduce encampments and to build more homes quicker, he wants to cut that. Whether it's the money we're moving forward directly to schools across the country so they can deliver more schools, more food, and take pressure off of grocery bills, he's voted against that, Mr. Speaker. His only agenda is cuts and austerity while we help Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. We told them. The Journal de Montréal reveals a surge in asylum requests at the border. The Lacolle border crossing received more than 80 applications between Saturday and Sunday, about 7 times the recent average. A vice president of the Customs Union has said that in terms of employees, they're not ready to take on many people. And it confirms 2 things. 1, we were right to predict a rise in migration caused by Donald Trump. 2, we were right to predict that the federal government isn't ready, as usual. When will this Prime Minister take action at the borders?
He's not going to, man. He's not the guy for the job.
Mr. Speaker,
this is why we need an election.
This is just anything we're hearing from the Bloc. We renegotiated the Safe Third Country Agreement, with which makes sure people who come to border crossings must do their asylum request at the first safe country where they find themselves. This means in the U.S., Mr. Speaker. And yes, we did solve this issue with the U.S. By renegotiating this agreement, and the Bloc is ignoring this. They're just looking for squabbles rather than reflecting real facts. We're always going to take care of our borders rigorously.
You've had 9 years and you haven't done shit.
It's mind-boggling. Everyone warned them. We knew the Liberals were no good with the border, so the Bloc warned them, even before the U.S. election, that if Donald Trump won, there would be a surge in migration to the border. Quebec warned them, immigration lawyers warned them, organization warned them. We warned them as well, Mr. Speaker. And then, just as asylum requests start to climb, the union tells us that it's short-staffed at the border. And once again, the Prime Minister has no plan. Is he doing it on purpose, Mr. Speaker? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, my honourable colleague is so proud of his written question that he didn't even hear my answer to his first question. We renegotiated the Safe Third Country Agreement with the United States to ensure that people who come to our border crossings should have presented themselves to the U.S. to seek asylum rather than coming to Canada. We do have a solution to this issue, a solution that we implemented as a government, but the Bloc doesn't want to recognize the facts. They just want to scare Quebecers. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. We have a Prime Minister who is weak and a weak economic position. Facing the threats from Donald Trump, Mr. Speaker, now we're learning that the PM doesn't even know the extent of the deficit. Spending's out of control, and it goes up day by day when the PM is trying to buy the support of the Bloc and the NDP to keep himself in power. So I ask him the question again very slowly. How much is the deficit of the Government of Canada? The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I don't even
Mr. Speaker,
know if we
will present our economic statement.
can trust these guys to give the right numbers.
And the opposition leader can react to that. But I know full well that he will already vote against it, like he voted against all the initiatives that we established to help Canadians. Like, for example, our tax break that is coming up in the coming months for Canadians. He doesn't think that Canadians need this. We have the best fiscal situation of all our G7 partners, and he refuses to help Canadians. Why? Because he'd rather people be in a difficult situation to vote for him, but we are going to be here to help Canadians. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. He is a weak Prime Minister that has lost control. He lost the control of the borders, lost control on migration, lost control of public spending. So he says that he can't say how big the deficit is, even though he already had a budget for this year. That's strange. This is the first time I've heard that from a Prime Minister. So we'll ask an easier question. What was the deficit of the Government of Canada last year? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, while the Conservative leader continues to block and vote against initiatives that will help Canadians, he is trying to find ways to attack me. But we will be tackling and helping support for Canadians. We will be creating a tax break in coming months that the Conservatives will vote against. We're going to deliver assistance for workers that the Conservatives will vote against, like they voted against dental care, like they voted against school food programs, like they voted against more daycare spots. They don't want Canadians to do better because he wants to convince everyone that everything's broken.
Everything is broken.
Leader of the Opposition.
Prime Minister who's lost control of everything. He's lost control of the borders, lost control of immigration, and lost control of spending. Recently it came to light that the deficit is much bigger than his finance minister reported in the recent budget. Now, the Prime Minister claims that he can't tell us what the deficit is for this year. Okay, so we'll make it easier for him. What was the deficit last year?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we see the lengths to which the Conservative leader will go to not talk about the fact that we are proposing a tax break for Canadians over the
for 60 days.
Vote against that.
How do you think that's a good
He's going to
idea?
vote against direct help for families at the grocery store, with children's clothes, with supports for Canadians in everyday expenses. Why? Because he'd rather continue to see Canadians suffer, because maybe that'll help him get elected, rather than actually solve the challenges that Canadians are facing. Well, we're stepping up to deliver on dental care, on school foods, on initiatives that directly help workers. That's what we'll continue to do.
The honourable member for Sudbury. Mr. Speaker, like everywhere else, affordability is an important issue in my riding. Sudbury workers were pleased to learn that they will receive a $250 check to support them. Can the Prime Minister tell Canadians what other measures have been announced to support them as the holidays approach? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I'd like to thank the member for Sudbury for her question and for her hard work. We know that the last few years have been tough, and that's why we're going to give a tax break to all Canadians. This means that Canadians won't have any tax to pay for 2 months on groceries and other essential goods that they use every day. We're putting more money back in the pockets of Canadians so they can buy what they need and save to buy what they wish.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, to show how weak he is, he actually has to read a script just to talk about his tiny 2-month tax break.
I love that.
My question a moment ago, though, was about the deficit. He admits that deficits contribute to inflation. We now have reports from the Parliamentary Budget Officer that he appointed showing that the deficit is far bigger than he advertised in his last budget. So once again, I'll ask slowly, what was Canada's federal deficit last year?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, I'll take a lesson from someone who stays up late every night rehearsing his little performances in the mirror. The fact, Mr. Speaker, is we're continuing to step up for Canadians because
Maybe you should rehearse, buddy.
in the G7,
You don't sound
we
prepared.
have the best debt to GDP ratio and are projected to have the strongest growth in the G7 ahead of the United States next year. These are things that we've done because we've been investing not just in Canadians and support for them, but also in drawing in global investment. Third largest foreign direct investment in the world last year, Mr. Speaker. People investing in Canada because they believe in Canadians. Why doesn't the Leader of the Opposition believe in Canadians?
He does. Canada first.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
I know the Prime Minister said that he'll leave the economy to bankers. Well, the bankers are sure rolling in cash, collecting interest on the national debt that he has already doubled, while Canadians line up at food banks. The question, though, was about the size of the deficit. You cannot run a $500 billion G7 government if you don't know anything about the finances of that government. So can the Prime Minister tell us, does he actually know the size of the deficit?
To be honest, I don't think he does.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what we are focused on is delivering for Canadians, is being there to recognize that Canadians need support now as we build a stronger future for them. That's why we're drawing in global investment to a higher rate than just about any other country per capita in the G20. We are delivering things that make a real difference in Canadians' lives, like dental care, like a school food program, like more spaces in childcare at $10 a day, like a tax break for the next 2 months, like direct support for workers. All things, Mr. Speaker, that the Conservatives are voting against because they care more about themselves than they do about Canadians.
That's right.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, he doesn't know.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't know. No. He doesn't know.
I was tempted to accuse him of hiding it, but you know, as Napoleon Bonaparte said, never attribute to malice what can be explained by incompetence.
Yep.
Mr. Speaker, who's actually running this government.
It's certainly not Trudeau. Maybe the WEF.
While the Leader of the Opposition continues to focus on me, I'm going to stay focused on delivering for Canadians, delivering a tax break for the next few months that will help Canadians with the cost of everything, deliver on supports for workers, deliver on supports for seniors, deliver on supports for youth. These are all things that the Conservative Party votes against. Not because Conservative MPs don't care about these things, but because they've been throttled and muzzled by their leader so that they can't actually be their community's voice in Ottawa. They're there to be their leader's voice in their communities. Shame on them, Mr. Speaker.
Like, he keeps trying to go with that narrative, but it's just not sticking. It's ridiculous.
Order. The honourable member from Vaughan Woodbridge.
Mr. Speaker, people...
Order, please. The honourable member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Mr. Speaker, people in my riding are counting us to deliver essential supports like the Canadian Dental Care Plan. But the Conservative Party's stubborn blocking of the House for their social media clips is putting this program at serious risk. This isn't about politics, Mr. Speaker. This is about access to health care and Canadians. Can the Prime Minister remind us all, what is at risk if this House continues to put politics...
Excuse me. I'm going to... Colleagues. I'm going to ask all members to please not take the floor unless they're
What's with his
recognized by the
mouth?
Speaker. I had great difficulty
Right there.
hearing
Can someone zoom in on that?
this question. So I'm going to ask the honourable member from
Is
Brantford,
that like a cold sore or something?
please, to not... I'm going to ask the honourable member from Brantford, please, to not take the floor while the Speaker is speaking. The honourable member from Vaughan Woodbridge from the top, please. The honourable member.
Mr. Speaker, people in my riding of Vaughan Woodbridge are counting on us to deliver essential supports like the Canadian Dental Care Plan. But the Conservative Party's stubborn blocking of the House for their social media clips is putting this program at serious risk. This isn't about politics, Mr. Speaker. This is about Canadians. This is about access to health care. Can the Prime Minister remind us all what is at risk if this House continues with politics over Canadians? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for Vaughan Woodbridge for his hard work on the file and his question. Canadians are not surprised to see Conservative leader blocking key programs to support them. But I think we're all kind of surprised to see the NDP standing by. The NDP is actually helping Conservatives block dental care, health care for refugees, clean drinking water for Indigenous communities. The NDP...
You've had 9 years, you sack of shit.
Conservative Party's games...
For clean drinking water.
And end this obstruction of Parliament so we can all deliver for Canadians.
Order. Order. The honourable member from Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' housing failure hurts people experiencing gender-based violence. Women's Shelters Canada found that...
Yeah, Pierre keeps beating up a woman. Justin Trudeau.
To meet increased
on the
demand.
public stage.
This is forcing women into precarious housing or to return to abusive situations. The Liberals are compromising safety because of their failed housing plans, and the Conservatives care so little they heckle during this critical life and death question. Will the Prime Minister commit to increase investments in affordable rent-geared-to-income housing today?
She's so passionate about what she's talking about, she had to look at her script mid-sentence.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, no one should have to return to a violent or at-risk situation because they can't find housing, because they can't get into a shelter. That's why we continue to step up to work with provinces and municipalities to ensure that there are options for people fleeing domestic violence. It is a deadly serious question, Mr. Speaker, and we will always be there to work with provinces, territories, and municipalities to support women and anyone fleeing domestic violence.
The honourable member for Spadina, Fort York.
Mr. Speaker, in 2024, 358 people on the U.S. terror watch list were stopped from crossing into the United States from Canada. How did these terrorists enter Canada in the first place? The immigration minister's failure to secure our borders puts Canadians in danger, and his incompetence has now placed Canada's economy at risk with a 25% Trump trade tariff. Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister fire this incompetent minister before he does even more damage to Canada?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the member should turn to his friend, the leader of the Conservative Party, and ask him why he is refusing top-secret briefings on national security. He should ask his buddy, the Conservative leader, why he will not get
the security clearance.
understand how to better protect his party and Canadians. The Conservative leader refuses to take top-secret briefings or get a security clearance because he would rather play politics with Canadian safety than actually act to keep Canadians safe. Shame on that member. Shame on the Conservative leader.
Well, get the security clearance, Pierre. It's the only way.
Points of order. The honourable member for Regina Capel.
Mr. Speaker, as you know, not only can words be unparliamentary, but gestures can be as well. And I was in the process of negotiating with the government House leader whether or not we could get unanimous consent to table the text messages from the Liberal member for Vaughan Woodbridge when he was asking to join our caucus. Mr. Speaker, as I was in the process of doing that, the Liberal member for Vaughan Woodbridge made a very vulgar and rude gesture, giving the middle finger to this side of the House. That is extremely unpopular.
Oh, cut it off!
To apologize.
Cut off his finger! And force Trudeau to eat it! Look, what the fuck do you want me to say? How dare he?
The honourable member from Vaughan Woodbridge.
Mr. Speaker, at this moment in time, I seem to be living rent-free in the heads of many of the Conservative members. It's unfortunate, Mr. Speaker. I did not do anything vulgar to the Conservative member. I've been in this House for 9 years. I've always tried to act in the most honourable way with all members of Parliament and all things. I actually co-chair some committees with the Conservative members, and that is my reputation. I have nothing to apologise about, Mr. Speaker. I raise my hand to give the script to the page, and that's it, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sug on these, buddy. We don't care.
I see that the honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable is rising on a new point of order. Mr. Speaker, you know that in this place we must respect the honour and the words of those who rise to speak. That said, people have the responsibility of being honest for their colleagues, for their constituents. Mr. Speaker, I saw the gesture in question with my own eyes. Right, so that's on the same point of order.
Cut his finger off,
honourable member,
and let's move on.
I heard the point of order. The member in question rose and said, honourably, I presume, that he did not make the gesture that he was accused of making. The honourable member from Mégantic-L'Érable mentioned that the chair does presume the honour and honourable nature of all members. That said, as one member has suggested, the chair will look into the matter and watch the camera feed. I will bring this matter up again if necessary. Point of order. The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. I hope that this is not on the same point of order that the chair just ruled on. Mr. Speaker, I feel offended. You just cast doubt on my word and on what I said that I saw my colleague do, and I find that unacceptable, Mr. Speaker. It being 3:27, the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division on the sub-amendment of Mr. Garretson to the motion to concur in the 12th report of the Standing Committee on Human Resources, Skills and Social Development and the Status of Persons with Disabilities. Call in the members.
That's it, eh? We're not freaking listening to that crap. All right, folks. Not too bad, eh? Not too bad. How about them apples? Eh? How about them apples? That wasn't too bad, was it? Lots of zingers. I'm offended. Everybody's always offended about everything these days. Holy smokes, man. What the heck is going on? All right. Well, that was incredible. While I still have your attention, I want to encourage you guys to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. All right, subscribe. That's the most important thing. Turn that little bell notification on so you can actually be notified of upcoming videos. More importantly, these live streams. They get crazy out of hand, as you've seen, and it's awesome. And it's only going to get crazier and crazier, especially as we approach the holidays. We're going to end it here, folks. We're going to end it on a high note. Make sure you go over, if you missed the beginning of question period, I've already posted the video here on House of Canada, and I've got another one coming out on MSB any minute now. So enjoy the rest of your day. I look forward to seeing you guys on the other videos on the other channels. And yeah, peace and love, everybody. See you guys same time tomorrow. Shit, I got a lot of super chats to read off. Oh my god. There's so many. Okay. What a daunting task, to have to read off super chats. Oh, okay. For crying out loud. I appreciate the support. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be offended, right? I didn't mean to be offended. Let me read off the super chats for those that want to stick around. Henry Mann with the 5 saying, Americans and Canadians are more similar than we are different. A solid U.S. and Canada relationship cannot be beat. I agree with that. We get along very well. Our economies feed off each other very well, and I think that it's in everyone's best interest to get along. Conisma with the 2 saying, I am a girl. Okay. You paid $2 to say that. Okay. Woody Doppelganger with the 5 saying, Ken Hardy, all the autocrats, I see you and your spineless leader. Thanks for that, Henry Mann. Yo, Henry, stop giving super chats, bro. There's so many. Is against Canadian law for Pierre to reach out to Trump in the back channels. I think Trump would work for them. No, so it's not. In fact, even Kevin O'Leary suggested that Pierre Poilievre go to Mar-a-Lago and meet with Trump. So that's something to look forward to, right? Henry Mann again with the 5. I think Trudeau is waiting to dance like a girl at the next Taylor Swift concert. Man, he's still wearing his friendship bracelet from the Taylor Swift concert. That's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. I get it. Most of us have been to like some event or some place that's memorable. I'm not saying a Taylor Swift concert is that, but like an amusement park, or you go to Dominican Republic on vacation and you bring back like a seashell necklace or something like that, right? Something like that. I get it, right? You want to hold on to that sentimental value, but that wasn't given to you by like a teenage girl or some shit. Like, okay, it's kind of weird. Woody Doppelganger with the 5. The right dishonorable Swifty. How many NDAs did those kids have to sign? Oh my god. Hopefully there's not too many more of those super chats that are talking about that stuff. It's funny, but it's weird, man. It's weird. They're talking about people's lives, right? Trudeau notes from Wyatt 5.9 liter. That's an interesting username. 279. Trudeau needs to go. I pray Pierre saves us. Me too. I mean, it's going to be a bit of an uphill battle, to be honest. Pierre's got a lot of work to do. He's got a lot of relationships to mend. He's got a lot of policies that, I mean, the only real way that he can get shit done is if it's a clean sweep majority government. And I see people are still donating super chats while I'm trying to read off this massive list. We're going to be live for quite some time, aren't we? Stop threatening and just do it by Woody Doppelganger with the 5. Vote non-confidence right now. We're getting closer. Look, I don't want to. I'm a kid. Okay, I'm a kid. I know you see a grown man. I've got a family. I get it. I have kids of my own. But I'm a big man child. And when I see this shit, I'm hyped up on this much coffee. One could even say, I did not see that coming. All right? I'm overly energetic and overly enthusiastic. And when I say I believe there's going to be an election, it's not because I rub a crystal ball and I see that there's an election. It's because I actually think, holy shit, there might be an election, right? Just like when you watch sports, just like when you watch any entertaining thing, you're like, whoa, it's that emotional roller coaster. I feel that. That's how I am in my personal life. That's how I am on camera. It just is what it is. And with everything that goes on, there might be an election. There's not. There might be. There isn't. There's a new coalition. There isn't. Like, it's just such an emotional roller coaster, and I get it. I'm not trying to pull on no one's heartstrings. It's how I feel. It's an emotional roller coaster. Man, I feel crazy myself thinking there is going to be one. There isn't. There is going to be one. There isn't. You got to be based, bro. You got to be based. Nothing happens in Parliament, but then something happens. But nothing happens. But then something happens. Your petition's not going to do anything, but it did. He stopped muting the microphone. Like, it's just an emotional roller coaster. So we all just live our lives and we go with the flow of the ocean. You know what I'm saying? Tia with the 279. We need an election. Trudeau needs to go now. I fucking agree, Tia. I fucking agree with that. I want that sumbitch gone. Wyatt 5.9 leader 279. What a clown. What a clown. Trudeau is a freaking clown. He's a moron. He's a lot of things. I'd get banned immediately if I spoke like how I want to speak. You know what I'm saying? Off camera. I don't just say Trudeau's a clown. I don't just say Trudeau's a clown. Henry, stop sending super chats. I see what you just did, you son of a bitch. Wyatt with a 5.9 L. 699 saying, breathe. Trudeau, your emotions are showing. Dude, that was funny. That's the thing about Pierre. Politics used to be boring, and it should still kind of be boring a little bit later. But right now, it's insane because Pierre is, he found an opening from being at the right place at the right time, the right guy, the right enthusiasm, the right look, the right words, and just his demeanor. Like, you can't fake being a Pierre. You can't be a good debater. You can try to be, but this shit is live. That's what I love about Canadian Parliament. Look, America has their own way of doing it, and I get it. I get it, man. Canada, it's no term limits, all that stuff. It can bite you in the ass. But at least we see live debates and we see how they handle stress. Trudeau, you can see he's not that good at handling stress even in the debates. He takes out a script. But my friendship bracelet, guys, come on, like power of the Swifties. Pierre doesn't do that. He's got no script ever. He filibustered for like 5+ hours once upon a time. He's a wizard. He's made for this. He's trained his entire life for this. He got his shot and he's running with it. And it's phenomenal, right? Not to blow too much smoke up his ass, but the way he's trolling Trudeau in real time. Breathe, Prime Minister Justin, come on. We see you with your open door policy at work. You lay down your yoga mat, and every day you do 15-minute breathing exercises. Breathe, Justin. Like, that shit is funny because that makes clips. That makes clips and views. And then Canadians all around the world, all around the country, all around the world, people from all around the world get to see what the hell is going on in Canadian Parliament. It brings more eyes. It brings more attention to what's going on. Now, I'm not suggesting that Parliament should be sensationalized. Like, no, I think that we're all looking forward to a day where we go back to being a little bit less entertainment, a little bit more boring. But right now, everything's politicized. All eyes are on politics. Canada, America, just in general, their own respective country. But because Trudeau's so hated, his name carries a lot of weight around the world. So I like it. I like Pierre's approach to politics. It speaks to me because I just like that type of discourse. You calling out bullshit in real time. It's great. And he's fucking phenomenal at it. Konisma, who's a girl, right? I remember your last super chat. Okay. CTE for our Christmas present. Thank you. CTE for our Christmas present. A brain disease. Chronic traumatic encephalopathy. I'm too stupid. I can't even pronounce that. Savour with a Savour 25 with a new membership. Thank you. I appreciate that. Lots of new members, man. Lots of new members. We went through a bull run of like gifted subs or gifted memberships not too long ago. And we're still like a lot of people have renewed their memberships. So thank you, everybody. It looks cool, man. You see it in the chats. Like people got their different names and the colored names and stuff like that. It's kind of cool. Wyatt, 5.9 liters with a 279. $200 ain't shit in today's economy. Well, Wyatt, 5.9 liters. It's $250. And I've already spent mine. I've already spent my $250 for the GST rebate. I've already spent it. Shit. I was going to wear it. I remember last night. I'm trying to break it in. Because, hey, look, I live up in the north. I live in northern BC. It's cold, right? It's like minus 15 outside. I've already shoveled my driveway 3 times. Not enough snow to use my overly large snow blower, but it gets cold up here and you got to be dressed for the weather. I got a pickup truck, right? I got a Dodge 1500. You don't plug it in, right? It's a gas guzzler. It's a Hemi. It's a fucking right. And so I went to Carhartt. I went to Mark's Work Warehouse yesterday with my family, and I bought the Carhartt duck feathered whatever the hell a jacket. It was $239 or $249. And I was wearing it around last night. I was walking around my house in boxers, and I had my jacket on. Oh, yeah, pants. I'm wearing pants today. Don't worry, folks. I'm wearing pants. But yeah, I was walking around yesterday in my boxers, and I was just wearing this jacket. And I was like, man, I'm going to wear this. I'm going to wear this tomorrow on my stream and say, look, my $250. I'll wear it another time. But man, I'm stoked about this jacket. But hey, it's a free government jacket. How about that? Dodge Gang. How about that? Look, I love EVs. Don't get me wrong. I love electric stuff. I love it. I'm like a tech guy. I love technology. And then when I lived down on Vancouver Island, I was thinking about getting a Tesla, right? I was thinking about getting the Model Y, the SUV, right? The SUV. And then I decided not to. And then we moved up north, got a house. And I'm glad I didn't. I see some Teslas roaming around town and stuff like that. I saw a Cybertruck rolling through the mall, and I like rolled down my window and gave him 2 thumbs up because I love that shit. It's like, it's awesome. Like, I absolutely love it. Like, if I could snap my fingers and own a Cybertruck or a Tesla, oh yeah, man, for sure. Like, super for sure. But, oh man, you go down a service road, you go down somewhere that hasn't really been plowed, right? Like, the 4x4 on my Dodge truck versus a Cybertruck or a Tesla, like, is it gonna stack up? Or you add a little bit of snow, you add 2 feet of snow, my Dodge can go through that, right? Go pretty good through that, man. Pretty good. Plus I got what kind of tires do I have? Mud and snow tires. It's got the snowflake. It's actually kind of illegal not to have the snowflake where I live in the wintertime on your tire, but it's got the snowflake. And I think I'm just going to put like strictly snow tires on so that I got better traction and stuff like that. But it gets to minus 30. It gets to minus 40 for like 7 days, 2 weeks. We got 2 weeks, two weeks usually of straight minus 40 up where I live. And then it hits minus 40 intermittently, minus 30s for like probably 50 days of the year we're in the minus 30s, and double that, give it to the next person for the minus 20s, right? We're minus 20 the other day. In fact, my furnace, I'm getting my furnace replaced, and it's like kind of on the kaputs, right? It's almost a 20-year-old furnace, and I had to go to Crappy Tire, and I bought like 3 or 4 heaters, like space heaters, right? The box ones, like they kind of they're old. They don't look bad, but they look okay. I don't even know where I'm going with this. Dude, I don't even know. You get me talking and I just won't even shut up. But now you know I'm getting a furnace replaced. Cost more than $250 though. But the whole point of that was $250. I got a new jacket. I got a new Carhartt duck feathered blah 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 jacket for $250. Like right on the money. So thanks, Trudeau, I guess. Do I live in PG? Yeah, I do. Jonathan Snap McLean with a $6.99 saying, have you seen the PBD podcast? Spy claims Pierre Trudeau was a child sex trafficker. Her book questions wife's medical diagnosis and Justin being groomed. I seen something like that. Some of that story doesn't fully add up. Just when they start talking and stuff like that, some of that shit doesn't add up. So I haven't made a video about it, but I've seen it. Savor 25 with the 2. See my Christmas present, a carbon tax election. That'd be nice. That'd be my birthday present too, eh? I'm born on Christmas, by the way. That was all fun and games. I loved the fact I was born on Christmas, so I found out Justin Trudeau is also born on Christmas. Fuck. Trudeau, rosy colored glasses are certainly broken. From Brian McHattie. Thank you, Brian. David Tomes with the 1111. I wish Canadians had the power and the right to kick out a prime minister who is continually failing at his job. Maybe one day, eh? Let's let Pierre Poilievre begin to repair the damage that Justin Trudeau has caused. Yeah, I wish we did. We do almost have the power when there's a lack of confidence in Parliament, and we're kind of getting there. Then we see it. But the average people, like Canadian citizens, no, they don't have a power to do that. Where is it? In England, they're doing a petition that's got over 2 million signatures to do an election to kick out their leader or some shit like that. I mean, maybe if there was a benchmark to do a registered Our Commons petition to, get over a million signatures or something like that, would that be enough to trigger some form of election or some form of reform in Canadian Parliament? Like that would be kind of cool. And thanks, Tomes. I appreciate that. Wyatt 5.9L to 699. Trudeau is weak calling election. Yeah, they called him a lot of names today. Pierre freaking trolled the shit out of him. Who else is Pierre supposed to focus on? Says Andrew Lepensi with the 2. Yeah, I mean that's a good point, right? Trudeau keeps saying, "Why are you focusing on me? Why are you focusing on me?" You're the prime minister, dumbass. Who else is he supposed to focus on? Wyatt 5.9L with the 279. We don't want a tax break. We want him gone. Yes. I was able to afford one winter jacket under Trudeau. I feel like I'd be able to afford significantly more under Pierre Poilievre. You know what? Whoever can get me more winter jackets for cheaper wins my vote. I'm a simple guy. I already know the answer is Pierre. Neptune Rain 93 with the 5. Is Squeaky Freeland not in the house today? And how can we send this Delulu a message? He's not wanted. He's delusional. Psycho. Well, Trudeau definitely knows that Canadians don't like him. So that you don't need to send to him because he sees it with flags, with stickers, such as this one right here. Keep calm and never vote Liberal. You can find a link for that down below in the description if you'd like to purchase one. Use code SUNSHINE for 15% off. Freeland, I don't know if she was in the house. I was too distracted between fancy socks and the next prime minister. But today's caucus leader day. Wednesdays is the big day, right? So that's when you've got the leader of the opposition and the sitting prime minister go toe to toe to toe to toe to toe for like pretty much everything. Notice how you didn't have any other conservative MP really talk. You had the French guy, but that was it, and the bloc leader, and then the person who was sitting for Jagmeet, because Jagmeet wasn't there. He was, I don't know, probably picking fights with Canadian citizens or some shit like that. Kathy K with the $, message retracted. All right. Andrew LePence with the 2. So Pierre can act the same as Justin for the last 9 years. Yeah, that was weird. He was saying, Trudeau said to Pierre, what do? You rehearse this in the mirror every night or something like that? I mean, maybe that wouldn't hurt you, Justin. That wouldn't hurt you, buddy. That wouldn't hurt you at all to practice what you're trying to say. I mean, he doesn't seem prepared. He's always got his piece of paper and his script. It's not very good. Canadian Commander with the 2 saying one more super chat. Yeah, here come all the troll, like the funny messages, eh? Ay. All right, let's read off the funny ones. Dr. Burb with the 2, no message. Bree B with the 279, another super chat just because he said there's so many. Dr. Burb with the 5, Maple MAGA versus Maple Mafia. Take out Nero, who danced when Rome burned. Sound familiar? Absolutely not. I'll be honest, I have no idea what you were talking about. But thank you for the 5, and I'm sure someone will explain it to me in toddler English for me to understand in the comments. Henry Mann with the 2 US saying, because you told me to stop. Woody Doppelganger with a 5. The comment to stop threatening non-confidence was directed at the House, not you personally, Jasper. I am frustrated is all. Okay, I see. Thank you for that. Konis Ma with the 2, who's a girl, as we know from the earlier super chat, saying carbon tax election. I think everybody in this chat and every subscriber and viewer of this channel is probably on board with that. Henry Mann with a 2. I send because your content is excellent. Thanks, Henry. Man, I love how there's so many. I mean, it's pretty obvious that at this point, Henry is American. A lot of USD super chats. I think also to the point where you said he was American. A lot of Americans like to watch what happens in Canadian Parliament, and I like that. I like that a lot. I think that there's a lot of Canadians that we watch American news all the time. Of course, you have to. It's this world superpower, right? It's also like Trump. He's like the world's most popular human being, and what they're heading into. I wish that they had a bit of this, the live debates, right? Seeing Trump debate against whoever, Kamala or some shit live, like a couple times a week or something like that. It'd be cool. Or it'd be a waste of time. I don't know. In America, I have no idea. A lot of people think that even question period here in Canada is a waste of time. I personally like it, not because of this YouTube channel or YouTube channels, but because it's cool. You get to see how they handle pressure, and then you can make an informed vote just off of watching question period. You can tell a lot in these long format debates. It's almost like a podcast, right? If you have that kind of perspective on it, it's almost like a podcast. And when you're not answering the question that's been asked over and over and over again, well, it shows everybody who's watching how big of a piece of shit that you really are. That's personally why I like it a lot. Wyatt 5.9L 279. I'm also Northern BC. Not many towns up here. Again with the 279. PG is warm. Head north about 5 hours. It's always a pissing contest. Yeah, well, Wyatt, I got a buddy who lives 10 hours north of you, so where you are is warm. Konisma, who's a girl with the 2. Saying a carbon tax election. Yes. I don't know if that's a repeat of a previous super chat, but it seems similar. Poor Man's Poe with the 5 American to help hit the goal, buddy. Thanks, man. Thank you. And then there's 50-50 Happy Thanksgiving. Is it American Thanksgiving right now? American Thanksgiving. November 28th. Oh, tomorrow. Well, I mean, the real Thanksgiving already happened. I can only say that on this channel because it's a Canadian channel. Oh, that's right. Maybe I'll get the wife to cook some turkey or something tomorrow to celebrate. Neptune Rain 93 with the 2. Thank you, sir. Can't say I was sad. She wasn't. And then Ohana Tribe, Maple MAGA, Pierre for PM, Canada first and always. Yup. We're with you. We're with you on that one. All right. All right. I'm getting dry mouth, man. All right. We're done. No more chats. I'm ending the stream before anyone has an opportunity to send another super chat. Thanks for watching, everybody. We're going to be streaming again. Question period tomorrow. Same time. Look forward to you guys sticking around for that. Normally, I'd like to do some news stuff afterwards. But we're, for fuck's sakes. All right. We'll do it. Twist my arm, shall you? We're not done, I guess. The show must go on, right? The show must go on. All right, we'll keep watching. All right, here you go. Twist my arm. Twist my arm. I'll keep going. The Ontario Liberals release a hidden report on the province's doctor shortage crisis. Let's take a look. Yes, I said bye 15 minutes ago, and we're still going. All right, deal with it. We're still going. I still got some news pulled up. I was going to go. But now I got my coffee, and we're going to watch some videos so I can rehydrate.
This morning, we are releasing a previously hidden government report that undercovers the true extent of the family doctor shortage in our province. It's clear that Doug Ford has knowingly created a massive healthcare crisis in our province and that he's hiding the truth from you. This hidden government report suggests some alarming realities. First, at least 3 million people are at risk of losing their doctor in the next 5 years, with over 2,300 family doctors on the verge of retirement. Entire communities across Ontario, 205 of them to be exact, particularly in rural areas, don't have even a single family doctor who's signing up patients. And this report suggests that more than 1 in 4, 4.1 million people to be exact, are not signed up or rostered with a family doctor. These government numbers represent millions of Ontario families without dedicated access to what should be an essential service. And we know this is just the tip of the iceberg. And now it's time for Doug Ford to come clean about just how bad his healthcare crisis is. Parents are spending hours in the emergency room every time their kid gets sick, because they don't have a family doctor. Seniors are having to resort to walk-in clinics for regular care because they don't have a family doctor. And generations of young people are growing up without dedicated medical care because they don't have a family doctor. How did we get here? It's simple. Doug Ford has deliberately underfunded our public health care system while simultaneously attacking the doctors, the nurses, and the PSWs who care for us. Worse still, he's worked to keep this information hidden. Just like the Greenbelt scandal, he hid the truth from you. The reality is, Doug Ford doesn't want you to know about the true extent of his healthcare crisis. He doesn't want to talk about the 12-hour wait times, the 3 million people about to lose their family doctor, or the thousands of emergency rooms closures under his watch. Doug Ford has 6 years to get it done for you. But today we have even more evidence that the only people he's working for are the people who cut him checks. So let me be clear. Access to a family doctor is not a privilege in Ontario. It's a basic right. Today's report sheds light on a healthcare system that is in crisis and shows a provincial government completely unprepared and uninterested in responding. This isn't just about what Doug Ford hasn't done. It's about what you need and deserve. You deserve a government that does more for you and for your family's healthcare needs. A government that does more to recruit, to train, and to retain family doctors so that every community across our province has access to quality and convenient care, whether you live in the city or not. It's time for a government that does more for you, because at the end of the day, healthcare should be there for everyone in Ontario. Doug Ford has had 6 years to fix the crisis, but has only made it worse. Doug Ford can't get it done, but we will.
So, I mean, I agree that I don't think Doug Ford can get it done, but I certainly don't agree that the Ontario Liberals, can get it done.
Thank you. And now I'm going to pass the microphone over to Dr. Adil Shamji for his remarks.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. Everyone deserves a family doctor, their own family doctor. And under this government, we know that everything in healthcare has gotten worse. More patients in hallways, more wait times in emergency rooms, more people dying waiting for tests and surgeries, and of course, more people without a family doctor. About 1 million more people now than in 2018. Now, lately, we've been calling out the fact that 2.5 million people in Ontario don't have a family doctor. That's no access to any form of primary care whatsoever. Today, a concerned stakeholder from somewhere in healthcare has given us access to a report produced by the Ministry of Health. And truthfully, I haven't ever seen anything like it. It reveals that the scale of the challenge and crisis in primary care is far greater than we could have ever imagined. The report that we are sharing today shows every municipality or county in Ontario, and it gives the number of physicians who are rostering patients. It shows how many of those physicians are over the age of 60, and it reveals the number of people, including older people, who are rostered to those doctors. Looking at the ministry's own data, here's what it tells us. First, there are 2,336 doctors in Ontario who are above the age of 60. They care for over 3 million patients, all of whom are at risk of losing their doctor to retirement within the next few years. The government needs to plan for that, and I have no evidence that they are doing so. Second, in our province, the data shows us nearly half, 205, of all municipalities or counties don't have a single family doctor that signs up patients. Now, the technical word for that.
So I'm not in Ontario. We're out in BC, and we don't have a family doctor. We've been on a BC wait list for like 2.5, almost 3 years, it feels like. Still no family doctor. When our kids were born, you're assigned a family doctor for, I think, 60 days for a newborn. So if there's any things that the newborn needs, like if the newborn has like thrush or something, you can just quickly go to your family doctor. After those, I think it's 60, I think it's 2 months, might be 3 months. I think it's 2 months. After that, no more family doctor for the kid. And if anything happens, you got to go to a walk-in clinic or emerge. That's the state of Canada. Even if you have money to pay for something, you can't pay to skip any lines or go to a different line. It's insane. Our government has so mismanaged everything so far. And we're left with a population that just doesn't fucking have doctors. Doesn't have doctors.
Is rostering. So 205 municipalities don't have a single doctor who is rostering or has rostered any patients. And third, 4.1 million people across the entire province are not rostered to a family doctor at all. So let's talk about that very briefly. What does it mean to be rostered? Being rostered is that special relationship that's created when one patient is connected to one family doctor. In sports, if you're on the team, you're on the roster. Coaches, staff, and management will support and take care of you. Now, in family medicine, if you're on a family doctor's roster, you're their patient through and through. You can call and get an appointment anytime you like. You can remain their patient for years, decades, or until they retire. They know your file, meaning you don't have to explain your medical history over and over and over again. So what we're saying is that 4.1 million people aren't rostered to their own family doctor. Now, within that group, there might be some people who go to a walk-in clinic or a nurse practitioner. Some of them may even have a pediatrician because they're children, but they'll need a family doctor in a few years. A huge portion of that 4.1 million people don't have access to a family doctor at all. The bottom line is that this group is at risk. Many of them don't have a stable, predictable, secure relationship with their own family doctor.
I'm sorry that we just watched this. To summarize everything, our government's mismanaged doctors. We don't have enough doctors for our population in Ontario, in BC, in all the provinces and all the territories. The government needs to do something about that. And that sums up everything they just said. 8 minutes in 8 seconds. Not that hard, but Liberals obviously can't talk and they're idiots, which is why they're losing provincially, federally, municipally, everywhere. I'm sorry. That was extremely fucking boring. Not so boring is Kamala, who just broke her vow of silence. The first time she publicly talks since the loss against President-elect Donald Trump. Let's take a look at her, what seems like a drunken sailor speech.
I just have to remind you, don't you ever let anybody take your power from you. You have the same power that you did before November 5th. And you have the same purpose that you did. And you have the same ability to engage and inspire. So don't ever let anybody or any circumstance take your power from you.
What the actual heck is she talking about? I'm sorry, but that didn't make any sense. And I don't have it right now, but there are different versions of this clip where people have like photoshopped and tracked properly so it looks kind of real. A bottle of whiskey or a bottle of wine in this hand right there. It's pretty funny. I don't have the clip. I've seen it. I don't know if it got censored or nothing like that. I didn't save it, but yeah. Anyways, I'd love to know your guys' thoughts on that. Now we're going to take a look at something that Kevin O'Leary said recently about Justin Trudeau. This was on CNN. Here we go.
Trudeau is at the end of his time. It's a parliamentary system. He's hated by his own people. He's got a few months left. Trump will not be negotiating with him. He's gone. This is like the end of the parliamentary system, like Britain. A few months ago, they whacked their PM. Trudeau he's irrelevant. So now Trump should actually bring down the prime minister in waiting, a guy named Pierre poilievre. He's much more in sync with Trump. He's going to lift the ban on pipelines, eradicate no more carbon tax, and investing back in Canada. People want to invest there. And he's concerned about the border, concerned about fentanyl. He should go down to Mar-a-Lago now. Trudeau, irrelevant. Doesn't matter.
What does any of this have to do with starting a trade war? Like, why can't you develop relationships with our allies?
It's not a trade war when you get in sync with these two economies. There's no way on earth we're talking about water, paper, power, cars, gas, oil, all coming from Canada. Massive trading partnership. No chance in hell there'll be a tariff.
Just finish the sentence. No chance because it would be damaging or
because
no
it's
chance?
A bad idea.
No, I just want him to finish his idea.
A 25% tariff would devastate both countries. It's not going to happen. But the guy to be negotiating with is not Trudeau. He's a zero right now.
He's a zero. I mean, I agree, man. I agree. Like, it's so nice to see people outside of, just like a Canadian, whatever this is called, commentary space, or the Conservatives talk common sense, right? There's occasional clips of Joe Rogan, right, talking about it, but it's just surface level stuff, right? Surface level things like Trudeau's bad and he's ruined Canada, and that's why Joe Rogan doesn't want to come to Canada. Elon Musk have chimed in from time to time. Trump has chimed in, but Kevin O'Leary has that business background. He goes on Fox, he goes on, this case, CNN, and he brings a bit of a different perspective, more of a financial management perspective to the table. And I appreciate it, even though he's got, a list. A lot of people don't like Kevin O'Leary. A lot of people like Kevin O'Leary. You can talk about his, his experience or his controversies and yada, yada. Who cares about that when we're talking about this, right? We're talking about someone who can analyze a business managerial perspective of running a country economically. And Kevin O'Leary is just spitting facts at that point. Let's take a look now at this clip right here. Anita Anand, Liberal MP, who talks about the threats of the tariffs. Look at her face, like a deer in the headlights.
You've been working on these issues then of illegal drugs, illegal migrants across our shared border. But how big of a problem is it? Because reading through what Donald Trump put on Truth Social last night, it seems to be this implication that it's a large problem for the United States, which Canada has not been addressing enough.
We have a strong immigration system. We have strong and fortified borders. And if you come to Canada illegally, you will be deported. That is a key message that we as a government have, and I know that Minister LeBlanc and Minister Miller are very serious about ensuring that the rules relating to immigration, the rules relating to public security are followed and enforced.
And in terms of the drug supply, because Mr. Trump specifically points to fentanyl as an issue for the United States, putting the onus on Canada to do something about the cross-border of that drug. Are there enough measures in place to deal with his concern?
We have strong rules in place in the Criminal Code of Canada, which remains in effect for our country's protection, and we will spare no expense at enforcing the law. That is a beacon of the Canadian legal system and Canada as a whole, and we will continue to ensure that illegal conduct is prosecuted and that those who break the law are facing the consequences necessary.
Okay, so a couple of things on that one. Justin Trudeau has been asked several times in the House, what is he going to do about the 3 million people whose visas expire in the next year? Is he going to deport them? What's going to happen? And the answer from the Liberals has usually been that we're going to trust people to do the right thing, and we're going to take them at their word when they say that they are going to leave the country and go back home. Yet we have between 50,000 illegal migrants right now in Canada. Between 50,000 on the low end, 50,000 up to 500,000 people. This has been said many, many times. A lot of data to back that up. That's absurd. That's insane. That's a lot of deportations that need to happen. And this is the only time that I've ever heard a Liberal say that they will deport if you come to the country illegally. But what about if you come to the country legally and then your pass, your documents expire? What then? Then you're illegal. So just because you came here legally, does that now mean that you're going to deport? Because that's how it should be. You got to play by the rules, right? You got to play by the rules. You got to be strict on this stuff. That's how you keep a country's integrity intact. That's how you keep the value of a passport, the value of being a Canadian intact. It becomes devalued when it's overflowed. And 3 million people in 1 year are they all going to leave? I don't think so. And then we're going to see a surge of people seeking refuge and all those claims from America, right? When Trump goes through his deportation. So I don't know if Canada has the balls to be able to properly deport the people that need to be deported, right? I don't know. I'd like to think so, but I don't know. And I kind of want to pass a question off to you guys watching down in the comments. Do you think that Canada, the Liberals, have, the balls to deport people, or do you think that the Conservatives will do a much better job? Let me know what you guys think down below. Next up, we're going to take a look at political reactions of Trump's 25% tariffs on Canadian products. This is all by Canadian politicians, Canadian MPs. Here we go.
The bottom line is it would mean a recession for our province.
Politicians of every stripe and from every province warned about the potential impacts of 25% tariffs from the United States. President-elect Donald Trump is threatening the measure as he claims thousands of people are pouring into the U.S. from Canada and Mexico, bringing crime and drugs.
I found his comments unfair. I found him insulting. It's like a family member stabbing you right in the heart.
Senior government sources tell CTV News in a call last night, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau told Trump our shared border isn't the problem.
This is something that we can do, laying out the facts, moving forward in constructive ways.
According to the Americans' own numbers, in the last year, encounters at the Canada-U.S. border have accounted for just 1.5% of the total when you include the Mexican border. More than 21,000 pounds of fentanyl have been seized at the southern border, while the amount stopped on its way from Canada to the U.S. was just 43 pounds.
We think we have a reassuring and constructive story to tell, and our job will be to make sure the Americans understand the work that's being done at the border.
In the first Trump presidency, Canada dealt with U.S. tariffs on our steel and aluminum. That experience and the renegotiated NAFTA is why some are calling for another Team Canada approach. The Prime Minister is holding a virtual meeting tomorrow with premiers, but getting everyone on the same page could be a challenge.
I don't think that we can be naive enough to think that we can just argue, well, we're not as bad as Mexico, therefore give us an exemption. That's not going to fly.
Conservative leader Pierre is willing to put partisanship aside, but with conditions that put Canada first.
Trudeau's got to axe the carbon tax. He's got to lift the production cap on Canadian energy. He's got to rebuild our military and secure our borders.
The Canadian government did slap counter tariffs on the U.S. last time, but it's unclear if they will again. Now, Mexico's president has said she will retaliate if Trump follows through on his threat. Omar?
All right, Mike, thank you.
Yeah. I don't know if the Liberals are the right ones to do these negotiations right now. Look, they've done them in the past. Whether you want to view it as successful or not, that's entirely up to you. But we're talking about today right now. I don't know if Trudeau, like we're dealing with the Trump version 2.0. Trump version 1 was unpredictable. People around the world we were hoping he was going to be unhinged, and he absolutely was. But politicians around the world were extremely shocked because he had a completely different approach than everyone else. And he wasn't just like the president of a small country. He's the president of the world's superpower. Absolutely nuts. Like phenomenal. Like I think it's great. I'm not saying nuts in a bad way. But now we're dealing with Trump V2. And it's like, people thought they could prepare between V1 and V2, and you can't, because look what just happened. He slapped Canada and Mexico with a threat of a 25% tariff increase, and that's just like, causing a lot of panic from countries around the world. I don't blame them. Right? We're dealing with a very pro-American economy, a very pro-American president, and there's no room for error. And having Justin Trudeau, a man that Trump does not respect. Openly, he said this many times. I don't respect Trudeau. I like the Canadian people. I don't like the Prime Minister. We're kind of getting into dangerous territory. So I'd love to know what you guys think down below. Who do you think is better at dealing with the tariffs? Right? Do you think it's the Liberals, or do you think it's going to be the Conservatives? Let me know what you guys think. Guys, now we're done, right? Extended the live stream a little bit further. Now we're going to end it. I see a couple super chats here. Well, Henry Mann, welcome to the membership program. I appreciate that. Affiliates Avenue Consulting with the $1, no message. Thank you. Wyatt 5.9. Al with the 6.99. I had a family doctor my whole life, and he moved and would travel here for work. But he was told he can't do that now. My family has no doctor. That's exactly right. I mean, I get that. I moved away from where my family doctor was, and then years went by, and I was like, shit, I should never have done that. Canada Matt with the 2. Please stream on Elon's platform. I will. I think I'm going to stream. I'm going to stream question period on X. Might do that tomorrow. We'll see if I can figure it out. Peace and love, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the day. And now we're done. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.